Hello everybody and welcome to Road Atlanta as we celebrate 70 years of the Porsche Club of America here with the 70 for 70 special event. As you guessed it, 70 laps around Road Atlanta tonight to celebrate 70 years of the Porsche Club of America here in the Sim Racing series, just as we've got season 14 underway. It's great to be along with you here again on Racepot TV for this special event. Myself, Ewan O'Leary and Ron Mounds with you again. You might be sick of the sight of us this week, but we're back again on a Saturday this time. Good to be back alongside you, Ron. 70 laps at Road Atlanta, always a fast and furious circuit, but we've got multi-class racing. That's the difference really tonight compared to what we see on Wednesdays and Thursday nights. We've seen the same Porsche Cup car return, but we've got GT4s here tonight as well, and they're on the track at the same time together. Multi-class racing in the PCA.
Yeah, we have got ourselves a rather fantastic evening to look ahead to tonight. Two different classes of cars, a whole stacked field of racers as well. This is going to be a heck of a lot of fun.
It absolutely is. Let's, of course, thank, as always, Princess Cruises, who are the title sponsors of the 2025 PCA Sim Racing Series. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, 14, and indeed throughout 2025, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. As we mentioned, we are here for 70 laps, but that must be set by something, and that will be this qualifying session that's going on at the moment. Just about 10 minutes or so before we get to the end of it. They've just made their way around on the outlap, actually, following J.R. Gregory here for Flying Lion Racing, who is currently qualifying for them, partnered with Enrico Gregorato today. But it's the club driver qualifying ahead of the pro. It's another interesting part of this series, Ron. A lot of these drivers don't race together week to week. They don't race multi-class week to week either, but they don't race together. There's a maximum of one pro driver in each of these lineups, and generally there's going to be drivers out there together who don't race week in, week out. So that should be some new dynamics and a new challenge for lots of drivers as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a learning curve for many a racer, getting used to teammates, getting used to some cars that they may not usually drive around, and getting used to this track as well. You know, despite the fact that Road Atlanta, I would probably have it high up in the top 5 or maybe even in the top 3 in terms of the most used and driven tracks on the iRacing platform, you still have to get your grip around this sort of racetrack. It is a challenging one, this a behemoth as well. It looms ominously on any sort of schedule for good and bad reasons. It puts on some absolutely fantastic racing action, as I'm sure the both of us can attest to, having done many a broadcast here. But at the same time, from the driving side of things as well, this can be a tough ride. There's a whole lot of elevation change baked into this rather short track, and you've got a heck of a lot of turns as well. This track is a silent menace. Experience for sure are many of these racers around here, but also maybe uneasy as well.
Just go through a couple of the other rules that are maybe abnormal and series and event specific. 25 teams in the GT3 Cup cars here tonight, and the GT4s have got 17 entrants for them. All 2 driver teams. There's nobody allowed to do solo efforts. So there's 84 drivers set up for us here today. 1 pro maximum per team, although it's not a minimum. You can race with 2 non-pros if you want in either of the classes, but no all-pro lineups, which I think is probably a good rule, to be honest. Fuel is limited to 90% of the maximum fuel tank, and that should promote equal driver stints and the fair share rule being spread a little bit more fairly. Everyone has the chance to change the open setups. The qualifying driver, who's currently out there right now, must start the race. And as always, we have live race control. It's got a very similar feel to the endurance racing, actually, that the Porsche Club of America offers as well, the team racing series that we had in 2025, although that has had the Porsche 963s and the GT3s as well, which are a little bit different. This is Ryan Cowley. He's making his way out of the final corner at the moment. Going to be partnered with Kellen Heimbuscher here, both club class drivers. You'll see them on Thursday night as we go racing at Watkins Glen on the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. And I think for some of these guys, they might even be using this as a bit of a chance to get used to the Porsche Cup car again. Not least having a bit of fun, which is what this is all about, but actually taking a bit of data forward to the season as well, because there's still 6 rounds in the Cup car still to go in 2025.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point that you raised, you. And we saw this past week in some of these season openers, the past 2 weeks for that matter at Spa, many a racer running into some difficulties. But I wonder if we, I was just going to kind of bring in a sidecar to that discussion following Ryan Cowley a couple of moments ago in that number 14 Auto X's racing car. I'm going to bring attention to this, and I will say I am very much so a fan of that team for the simple sake that I spend my entire time in karts on the autocross side of things with the SCCA. Ended up walking away with 8 championships, not to brag my own horn or anything like that. I like the fact that there's autocross appreciation here in this event tonight. But no, we're in for a good one. Gonna be a challenging one for these racers as well. Not only on the GT3 side of things, but in the GT4 class as well. We got some advanced word talking about how in this new season on the iRacing platform, that Cayman GT4 718 car has gotten adjusted, shall we say, as iRacing tends to do from time to time. And as much as iRacing does some absolutely wonderful work season in and season out to make this the best sim that we can broadcast on and that we can race on as well, there are occasionally some times where those changes can be a tad unpopular, hearing that many a racer have some split opinions on that new GT4 machine. There's some in the camp that absolutely love the new changes, others that despise it with a burning passion. So we'll get to see those racers get acclimatized with not only the cars on the main broadcasted races here in the PCA world, but also those rather controversial GT4 machines.
Yeah, it's always interesting when a car goes through radical changes season to season. Don't forget, we're in week 13 at the moment, so these changes would have only come in 4 or 5 days ago, or at the very least, these drivers would have been driving with them for 4 or 5 days. And this event has been announced for quite some time, and so they may have done a little bit of pre-practice, but even if you're just a regular driver of one of those, or that GT4 Cayman specifically, then you would definitely be surprised by the way that things have changed. But it's always the way, isn't it? Things change week to week, or season to season, I should say, in the iRacing world, and certainly many things have here in this new build. Not least that Cayman, not least the new UI as well, which hopefully everybody's gotten to grips with. It's always on the endurance rating bingo card wrong that someone's signed up with the wrong team number and name, so just look out for that over the course of the evening with this new UI and all that kind of thing. That's always a regular feature of the longer endurance team races, with which this is definitely one of them.
You know, when those incidents may come about when we have something like that, I will not draw attention to that, but if the viewers would like to point and make fun of their own regard, we have no power to stop that whatsoever. We're joking, obviously. It's iRacing. We're here to have a good time and here to have a good race as well. With the checkered flag nearing here in this qualifying session, these racers looking to get a couple more laps on the board, rather close in this session as well. Looking at the lap times and the gaps in both of our categories, rather tightly knit are a vast majority of these racers, with a couple of exceptions here and there, but overall just a small little divergence from the general rule of closeness.
Absolutely. We'll go through the grid when it comes through in a few moments' time. Qualifying not quite over with just yet, and a couple of awards, by the way, to give out a little bit later on here tonight, so we'll go through those as well. But the top 3 will receive prizes for this event. We'll go through those throughout the race as well. But one thing that I want to get in early, first of all, cleanest overall team will get a prize, as well as the team with the best car livery. So that's judged by us, apparently, here at Raceport TV. We'll be putting our votes in. However, I'm happy to open it out to people watching along. If you want to suggest things, I'm not going to let the public decide, because that generally ends badly. But if you want to put suggestions in for a livery that you like the look of or anything like that, then put your suggestions in the YouTube chat. We're more than happy to listen to those over the course of the 70 laps, and we'll decide by the end of the day which is the best car livery to be gracing this circuit here tonight. We'll wait and see who wins out in that contest. Yes, for the top 3 overall and the cleanest team overall, it is also a prize day to be won, which is fantastic. A great way to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Porsche Club of America, starting, you guessed it, all the way back in 1955. here in 2025, things have certainly changed, and the Sim Racing series is one of those great additions over the course of those 70 years. We now transformed into the race session, or indeed we might have a bit of warm-up, I'm not entirely sure. No, I think we're going to the race. So let's have a look at the starting grid. Ready for the 70 for 70, and it's Wyatt Gooden who will be on the front for Simstrop Eagles Canyon Raceway, with Blake Townsend alongside. It is Kerry Brooks and Chris Braun then sharing row 2 for last 10th. Thomas Isabel and William Wolfe then on row 3. Jacob Schum and David Fernandez will share row 4 with Ryan Cowley and JR Gregory race bot zone, rounding out the top 10. Mike Patterson and Matt Odell will round off row 6. First driver 1 second off of pole is Greg Stretzlov with Kevin Jokel alongside. Eric Sutton and James Martin are on row 8, and Kevin Schultz and Chris Sherburn on row 9. Final rows of the GT3 Cup drivers: Aaron Sunday, Mehmet Karacay, Chak Kasion and Marcus Souza, rounding out the 22 qualifiers. And they will start the cars as well, because you have to. Michael Polasek takes pole in GT4, a long way in front of Mike Duran and Shea McNeely, the only other drivers to stay within a second of pole. Klaus Nielsen then in 4th, ahead of Little Eddie and Chip Witt, rounding off row 3. Rodney Campbell and Dean Chapman are on row 4, ahead of Jonathan Braber and Chris Costis, rounding out the top 10. Volker Krebs and Robert Walton then on row 6, 2.5 seconds off of the pole for Walton. And I think that's, there's a few more. Anthony DiVincenzo, Mark Frost and Jonathan Sasportas, who made his PCA Sim Racing Series 14 debut anyway this last week on Thursday, I think it was. Out onto the circuit again for these drivers into warm-up. That was a lone qualifying session, by the way, and so they have to get used to lap traffic all over again. Now, it's a 70-lap race, so we could probably work out quite accurately, actually, how many times these guys are actually going to be put a lap on at the course of today. I'm going to guess that it's going to be somewhere around 4 or 5, but for the top GT4s, it might be less. It's going to be a key factor, though, of this race, because it always is at Road Atlanta and the tight confounds of this Georgian circuit.
See, I would try and do the math, but I don't want my broadcast booth to fill up entirely with smoke, so I'll just leave that discussion for a little bit later on in the show. But certainly going to be a big factor in this race that lies ahead. There's so much that these racers are going to have to worry about heading off into this 70 laps of racing action here at Road Atlanta. These racers have a lot to worry about when it comes to the strategy content as well. You got to think of how it's going to work out with those driver swaps, too. Some of these racers may be in different time zones that may have different levels of energy, different levels of fatigue. Who knows? There's a million different factors that go into deciding how exactly a race like this is going to work out. And the stuff out there on the racetrack, some of it you can control, other it's completely out of your hands. So in this 70 lap long race that lies ahead, try saying that 5 times fast, it is going to be a tough one for these competitors. You got to be cooking their tires, burning up some fuel, and if I was behind the wheel, I would be burning my brain cells trying to figure out exactly how I can get to that checkered flag first.
And, you know, it should just be a one-stop race here, so we should just see fuel tyres and a driver change taken on from both classes, I think, both times. But, you know, it's actually a strategy where things are relatively easy to work out compared to the normal sort of endurance racing. We had 4-hour races all throughout the first 5 months of 2025, one for each month. From, you know, the Daytona circuit to this one, the very second round of the championship, to Spa, where we ended our season, and a few places in between. It's an unknown, isn't it, in those timed races, how many laps you have to do. But actually, this race here, 70 laps, makes your strategy very, very easy. We might even see a lot of drivers just saying, well, I'll split it in half then. The 70 laps can go 35-35, and we'll share the driving equally across the two drivers.
See, I feel like that's a very good strategy for some. However, I forget exactly how the saying goes. I think the saying rolls, if it's the first thing that popped into your head, chances are it's probably incorrect. So we'll have to see if those racers stay true to that. Be like, you know what? That's exactly what all my competitors thought we were going to do. So we may end up seeing some racers decide to really throw their toys out of the pram, so to speak. Make sure that they can throw their competitors competitors a curveball to keep them on their toes. We go into the mental side of things, trying to get into each other's head. You see it a lot in endurance racing, mainly just in the headlight flashing. I'm sure you've covered many a race, such as myself, Ewan, where drivers, even in the same class, or even if it's just a single class race, like the radical shows that we do on Fridays here on Race Spot, with drivers flashing their headlights at each other, not necessarily to say, hey, you're a lap down, get out of my way. It's just say, like, hey, I want to get your ahead even when we're heading down the straightaways. Let me treat you to a strobe light show as we head our way down the straights. It's the mental side of things going to be really important here at Atlanta.
It certainly is. And the warm-up session just draws to a close now. And the drivers will get themselves ready on the back straight, I think, or we might even have a full formation lap before we get this race properly underway. Of course, this circuit, so much character to it. The rises and falls what make it so special. As part of my ever learning geography lessons I get in these broadcasts, I've learned that Georgia is not flat. Quite the opposite, in fact. I'm reliably informed. So it's a very, very rolling circuit. I mean, look at that. The hills around it shows. But as I say, it gives the circuit such character. And another thing that gives the circuit character, the lack of room for error around this venue. The winning teams in both classes today are likely going to have to keep themselves off the road or keep their off-track moments to a minimum at the very least.
Yeah, make sure you can keep all four tires on your car and off the grass. This is a very unforgiving old school racetrack. This, when you think of Road Atlanta, you of course think of the many wonderful events that are held here year after year. Of course, at Petit Le Mans every single fall. Personally, my favorite sports car event. But this track has been around for quite some time. They constructed it in only 6 months, all the way back in 1970. And most of the alterations that have been done to this place have just been to modernize it. And the last time there was any major changes here was around about the late 90s, shortly after the SCCA left here from hosting the SCCA National Championship runoffs, and around about the same time with the first ever running of the Petit Le Mans. This is a track that hasn't gotten too many updates over the years. They stuck to the tradition, and it's still fun.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a lot of fun here in the PCA Sim Racing 70 for 70. 70 years of the Porsche Club of America celebrated for 70 laps here from Road Atlanta tonight. The green flag waves and we are underway. Wyatt Gooden leads it towards turn number 1 as Blake Townend in the background just slots in second. The qualifying order retained as they run up the hill for the first time. Kerry Brooks then third, then Chris Braun and Thomas Isabel. Good start for the last 10th team as they work their way through the opening corners of this racetrack. In the bottom of your screen, the GT4 starters, Michael Polasek, absolutely dominated in qualifying, and he's dominating off to the start of this race as well.
Yeah, pulling off a very comfortable lead as they head their way up through the S's into the very challenging left-hander of turn number 5. Tricky spot for sure, especially in these GT4s. Let's see how everybody's going to tackle this first lap as there's some battling with Shum and Pat Klein in the GT3s.
Onto the back straight for the first time for those GT3 Cup cars. Oh, look at that in the background. The gap from the front 5 to the rest of the field is very, very large. Steaming through the middle, Jacob Shum gets to the front onto 6th place with Pat Klein and David Fernandez going side by side just in the background. Down in towards the chicane. It's actually going to be Klein actually trying to make a move, I think, on the way into that final chicane. We'll wait and see who comes out the other side with the position in the end. But over the start of the end of the first lap, Wyatt Gooden leads the field and the front 4 or 5 break away quite nicely.
And you can already see some gaps beginning to form this track here at Road Atlanta. It may not be the longest in the world, but if you get caught out in side-by-side battling, it'll cause you to drop down as if you're dragging an anchor through asphalt. We saw that in the fact that the front 5 in that GT3 Cup category have just driven off into the sunset already. So a very long way left to go in this race, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. And if you stub your toe on that first step, you're not going to be in for a very good journey now, are you?
Absolutely. You need to get off to a good start in these races. As in the background, Gregor Atto and Pat Klein go side by side. Now, we saw Gregor Atto is entered in J.R. Gregory's car. We saw J.R. Gregory qualifying. And one of the rules is that the qualifying driver has to start. Or in the background, there you go. There's a spin. The car 14, Ryan Cowley goes around, coming onto the back straight at turn 7.
Oh, Jackson, that could have ended in disaster as he tried to get back up and rolling on the racetrack right as the top runners in GT4 tried to blow his doors off. Let's take a look at the moment involving Ryan Cowley. He's right by that car of Gregorado. We'll have to get confirmation to see what the deal is with that number 70 car, but there's the 14 spun around the 6 and the 55, collected and all that as well. I think what spun Cowley around was just a bad curve back on the inside of turn number 7. The bottom end of the track, very important for many reasons that we'll certainly touch on throughout this show, but it can bite hard if you even look at some of the turns in that section of the track the wrong way. Unfortunately, there, the number 14 driver learning that the hard way. Absolutely.
There is car 70 again over the top of the hill and back down the other side. Enrico Gregorato leading the way in this group anyway. Ahead of Pat Klein through the S's and into turn 5 where there's a peak down the inside. Not a place you normally see moves being made, but there was a little look there. No way through for Klein this time round. 3 seconds the gap at the front of GT4 for Michael Polasek, by the way. There he is. Nobody even anywhere near him here. Michael Polasek in this race is paired up with John Gibson, who's a club class driver. Polasek is, of course, a pro. And you can see some of those delayed GT3 Cup cars working their way through the Caymans off of the start. This is Klaus Nielsen versus Shea McNeely for third. Nielsen ahead of McNeely, who's been knocked back 1 place off the start.
As we start to see these racers try and settle the event into any form of groove, I do want to keep tabs on the lap traffic situation as we get a little bit farther along in this race. Currently, I believe our last of the other cars in the GT4 category, the number 9 car, is heading his way down into turn number 6 and 7 right now. You compare that to your current race leader of Wide Gun in the number 18 car in GT3 Cup. He's heading his way down the hill off into turn number 5 soon. So we are rapidly approaching upon lap traffic playing a huge factor in this race already. That's what makes the start of these races very hectic and a little bit frustrating for some as well. As much as it is drama in class, you kind of have to throw haymakers at each other, because once you get off into lap traffic, doubly so with the track as short and narrow as this one, with the field as big as we've got here today, you get to the point where you just kind of have to follow the leader when that lap traffic situation comes around. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a situation very similar to the 137 of Sun with the spin.
At the top of the hill, goes into a spin and back down the other side just to get himself back onto the circuit again. So down in 29th overall, by the way, 20th in the Porsche Cup class. Matrix Silver, the only ones below them. Mike Patterson, the first driver to come in for a proper long pit stop here in this race, unfortunately. And that is maybe the end of their day. Hopefully it isn't, and they'll get back out there onto the circuit again as we go on board with Chris Braun. The top 4 are showing themselves to be fantastically quick at the front. Wyatt Gooden, Blake Townend, Clary Brooks and Chris Braun all at the front, running nose to tail. And only the traffic at this point is going to split them apart. They're very evenly matched apart from that.
Yeah, they're going tit for tat when it comes to these laps. They are running strong, running smooth, and running mistake-free at the present moment, knowing by, like I probably just jinxed it, and one of these cars is going to get struck by a falling anvil in a few moments' time. But they're all keeping it smooth. May have seen a little bit of lawn mowing there from the 011 car as he headed his way off through turn number 5. Turn 5 around this track, I gotta say, a solid mention, is the most challenging and troubling corner around this racetrack, especially in either the GT3 Cup cars or the GT4s. When you're heading your way off through there, having to put full confidence in a small little bit of aero grip, but mostly the mechanical grip as you head off through that part of the racetrack, it can be a little bit terrifying, because it's not like a Formula One track where you would have about 15,000 feet of runoff to the other side. It's basically heading off through there, you've got a 3-foot wide curb, which is basically like a giant wall because it's so high. Then you've got a small little patch of gravel, an access road, and then a wall. There's pretty much no cushion for you. If you have a mistake through turn number 5, there is one way to describe how that's going to end, and that is disastrous.
On board with Shea McNeely, who was a big feature of the GT3 classes. I forget which one, but one of those 911 GT3 classes in the Sim Racing series for 2025. Now looking for a move down the inside on the way towards the chicane, and there's a bit of tactical lifting from Klaus Nielsen. on the way down into that chicane, and maybe a better run out of it actually from Nielsen, because that was very deep indeed on the brakes from Shea McNeely, one of our pro drivers, sharing with Drew Hillman, who's a challenge class driver. So you've got to start to weigh that up a little bit when you are thinking about these teams, you know, who's teammates who, and where is that going to land them at the end of this race, because safe to say that, you know, a challenge class driver is unlikely to be able to go with a club class driver, for example, and that's all got to be factored into everybody's thinking here, even at this early stage.
And that's Deja Vu from the 137 with the spin down to the exact same part of the track that he spun at earlier on. Eric's son, case of Deja Vu's, he headed his way into turn number 2, 3, and 4 right at the start of this lap. And I think it's the exact same situation that he had a little bit earlier on. The rear lockup down to the turn, overslowing, maybe going down the gears a little bit too quickly in that car and looping it around. Not the first time we've seen him have a moment like that. Not the first time we've seen a car have a moment like that in that GT3 Cup category. That may be something that we talk about all throughout this race. The braking zones proving to be a trouble spot for those GT3 Cup competitors.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned sort of the theme of when it rains it pours for some of these guys. That was the leaders going through the bottom of the screen, by the way, on top of each other nearly, as they get through traffic for the first time. That's the first bit of traffic at the 9 car of the Maverick GT4, Jonathan Susportas, who is currently in that one. And that's how the leaders have closed together, and Chris Brown has got a bad deal out of that one, unfortunately. But yeah, when it rains, it pours, really, because when you get a bad start in the Cup cars, you know, it's not great to begin with anyway, but you then have got to get through on the GT4 Caymans, and that just compounds the problems again and again. I think we're seeing that for Eric Sutton at the moment.
Yeah, and doubly so when you think about, I brought up the mental side of things a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, and when you have early mistakes like that, they can really start to pile on and pile on and pile on, and eventually it just gets to the point where something bubbles over. In the early stages of a of an endurance race, period, doesn't matter what kind of car you're running in, if you started off feeling a little bit rocky, it's not gonna, it's a very tough process to try and reverse that. It's usually just gonna feel pretty rough. I remember back in my own karting days, there were days when we would try and do something a little bit funky with the setup to start off that day, wouldn't get the best of runs in, and then from that point on, it would feel like I was on the back foot trying to make my way up, as I think we already have some pit stops. I see that the car of Pat Klein make a call to come down pit lane. I think I did.
You did. Last temp shrimp burgers into the pit lane. They've got quite some team names, by the way. Last 10th Clyde, don't know what that means, to be honest with you. And then the last 10th CBEB, don't know what that means either. Hopefully it's not rude. But anyway, they've got some team names there, and they're distinguishing at least between the last 10th teams. It's just a drive-through for Pat Klein, so I suspect that might have been race control enforced. And that's another thing you've got to think about around Road Atlanta. You've got to stay out of the pit lane, stay out of the penalties. It's not really a long race. You know, it's a multi-driver race, but I think it'll be only about an hour and 40 or so, just over at the pace we're going at the moment. And, you know, you've got to stay out of the pit lane, not least because it's such a difficult entry here, as we all know.
Yeah, super tough pit entry, and it's also very demoralizing, especially if you're not coming in because of strategy, having to trundle your way what feels like at a snail's pace down that start-finish straightaway in the pits. You want to make sure in a race like this, because I mentioned this a little bit earlier on talking about the Petit Le Mans. That's a 10-hour long race. This is far shorter than a 10-hour long race. It's not too terribly far longer than the other regular Porsche Club of America broadcast that we do here on RaceSpot TV week in and week out on Wednesdays and Thursdays. It's just long enough whereby these racers can push it a little bit, but they do have to think about the longer game. It is not the longest race in the world for these competitors, so you kind of have to go in with it with, I could best describe it as like a 50-50 endurance race mindset.
Dear oh dear, that's a very congested top of your screen there for the 10th place battle in GT3 Cup class, and one of the Caymans there again, it might be the 9 car again, with its ears boxed really, side by side between Marcus Souza and Chad Casion as they come now into the double right-hander of turn 6 and 7. So congested through that part of the field, but at the front they are not far away from getting to these guys. This is the battle for Shea McNeely, who's now to second, by the way, ahead of Mark Doran, but It won't be long until first and second in the other class will be behind them. Over the line now for Wyatt Gooden. That shows you just how close we are. 9 laps in here.
Yeah, so already starting to whittle the laps away. These competitors looking to have a good start, looking to try and do well. He's driving for Check Engine Racing, but he does not need to check his engine. That is still running smooth for the number 33 machine. Got that move done. Now up 3 spots from where he started in this race. Looking at some of the hard chargers in the top 10 of both of our classes, James Martin in the 930 machine currently running 10th of the GT3 Cup cars, up 6 spots from where he started in this race. Kevin Jokel up 5, 1 spot ahead of him. And then you look at the GT4 side of things, Chris Costas, 27 spots, 5 spots gained in the number 27 car ever since the drop of the green flag. Some pretty good stuff from him as we take a look. Don't tell me we've had another spin from Eric Sun. That may have been the replay from a little bit earlier on. Either way, though, rubbing salt into the wounds as he is having trouble with that car.
I think it's another of the same problem, actually. It's a very similar crash to the one we saw earlier, a very similar spin. Unfortunately, as we go on board with Rodney Campbell here, clearly one of those drivers been moving forward a little bit. An understeer ahead for Klaus Nielsen. That was loads of understeer there, and surely there's going to be a chance. No, not quite at the top of the hill that time around. Klaus Nielsen in this race is sharing with Bailey James Schommer, who we saw on Thursday night. He's a challenge class driver, but he was very good, so we'll hope that he can stay up towards the front as well. It seems that some of these teams who have got challenge class drivers are very much taking on their challenge class driver second when the field's a bit more spaced out, and that's probably the best way to do it, as these 3 leaders continue to fight, and they're into traffic now. This is where the proper race begins, and this, by the way, should happen 4 times. Based on current estimates, every car should get lapped at least 4 times in the GT4 Caymans, maybe more.
And I will trust the math there on that, but the lap traffic will be a huge factor in this race. Having to get dealt with as quickly and efficiently as you can on a track that, as I have said already in this show, it's not a modern, sophisticated racetrack by any means. It is still narrow. It still has those grass and gravel runoffs, and even then, you still have those looming barriers that will end your race in the blink of an eye. These competitors need to be on their toes more often than not, especially when it comes time for dealing with that GT4 traffic. And the traffic side of things can affect those GT4 competitors as well. Let's say it's a hypothetical, you're a GT4 competitor, you find yourself in a very intense battle, and you need to try and deal with that as you're worrying about a GT3 Cup car, the Cup cars that these drivers are racing in that category. Super quick race cars, even quicker than their regular GT3 racing counterparts. These Cup cars, super quick. If you're a GT4 competitor, seeing those Cup machines just come in like an Exocet missile, you are going to be terrified. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, it is a very pronounced difference when you actually get together on the racetrack. You sort of look at the lap times, it's 5 or 6 seconds slower per lap, and you sort of think, well, is it going to be that bad? But no, when you're actually out there, especially on a circuit like this again, which is so tight and physical, almost intimate, it's yeah, it is pretty scary when you're the slower class. You're very much putting your trust in those coming around you in those GT3 Cup cars, and at the front it's very much stretched out the advantage. Wyatt Gooden's got a bit bigger of a lead now. Kerry Brooks a bit further away from Townend, and Chris Braun is certainly nowhere near the front 3 now, and so it's not really done the case of closing the Cup cars together very much. It's actually just extended them apart in equal measure as one of those Caymans there goes off down into the chicane. There's another bit of danger. You've got to keep your wits about you and keep looking in the mirrors as the slower class car, otherwise you could be in trouble. As meantime, out the other side of it, Jacob Schum here looks like he might make the overtake on Thomas Isabel. That was aggressive to the white line, to the grass, but Schum not able to get through.
Yeah, that was some gutsy stuff in there. That could have ended in a disaster as they had their way down the start-finish stretch. Off in a turn number one, you can sense the growing amount of discontent and impatience behind the wheel of that number 13 machine. Thomas Isbell trying to find any way in the book to get past that GT4 traffic up right in front of him, and he can see that boiled over a little bit with that move, heading his way down that start-finish straightaway. Looked like a double block there, but again, race control will do their job and take a look at those incidents and judge them accordingly. Just from my perspective, looking at that camera, looked a little bit iffy with that move from the number 13 machine, but he's now cleared off the traffic. He's now got a clear road ahead of him, at least for the next couple of 30 seconds, let's just say. Probably not any more than that. And he's been able to shake off, at least for now, the number 56 machine of Jacob Schum right behind. They're still rather close, and they do have that number 5 machine of David Fernandez to worry about in case they get held up by even more GT4 traffic. But for now, Thomas Isbell having a slight opportunity to relax.
As you can see on the top right-hand side of the screen, actually even DiVincenzo has been in there for 43 seconds and back out there for D Squared Motorsport for number 42. Wonder whether that was an early driver change there or not. We'll try and work that one out as we go on. But DiVincenzo, one of our GT4 Cayman drivers for the D Squared Motorsport team. So anyway, we'll get to the bottom of that as we go on. This is close battle again for fifth continues. Thomas Isbell in a little bit less traffic at the moment. There's just that little bit of a break, isn't there, in GT4 traffic? There's a few pockets of air that you can find around the field. Of course, Polasek out front is going to be the outlier, I think, for a lot of this race. He's already a long way ahead of the rest of the field, and that might well remain the case. But there's a few little bits of clear air that you can find along the way that is quite nice for these Cup cars to come through on.
And for those Cup drivers, yeah, the best way I could describe it when it comes to the lap traffic and just trying to maintain speed, you get into a game of what I like to call lap traffic chicken for the GT3 cars. For any higher class car in whatever multi-class race it could be in a situation like that with the other Cup cars running at full speed, trying to deal with the slower GT4 traffic as they're battling it off down into turn number one. That's fourth in the GT4 class as that car in GT3 Cup is trying to blow their doors off, but it goes both ways. That's Kerry Brooks currently occupying the third spot in GT3 Cup. But for the faster cars, there's a certain amount of pressure that is put on them already when it comes to trying to overtake the cars. But peer pressure is a wonderful thing, you know. It can make you do stuff as a kid, but if you're a driver, it can make you do stuff out there on the racetrack. Let's say you're going toe-to-toe with the racer. They go for a gutsy move on a slower bit of traffic. Then you have to do it. You have to one-up and one-up and one-up each other, kind of deciding that game of chicken. And the only way that game is going to end is if that checkered flag comes out without incident or a GT3 car goes barreling off the track at a steady click of a couple of hundred knots and straight into the wall they're gonna go. There's only two ways that sort of situation can end off, and there's no real way of preventing it. These drivers are racers. I know what it's like. I remember back in my karting days, whenever there was something a little bit iffy about the track, one person would push the limit, then another, and then everybody else would be driving around it as if it was no big deal. Racers have it hardwired into their brain that they're always going to test a limit. When it comes to traffic, there is no exception.
Well, already approaching 1/4 distance, by the way, in this race, just a couple of laps away from that. That's how quick these races go by at Road Atlanta. The laps get ticked off very, very quickly indeed. And at the front, Simstrop Eagles Canyon Raceway with Wyatt Gooden, Full Speed Sim Racing, currently in second position at the moment. Wyatt Gooden was a big factor in the team racing series we saw a lot of at Gooden, Wyatt Gooden, I should say. A big part of the team racing series that we saw in 2025. He's partnered with Steve Komatz here, a club class driver, at the start of today. And Blake Townend is alongside Mark Foley, so that's another pro and club entry. Mike Patterson and Alan Owens, another one of those, although Patterson's already had trouble here today, unfortunately, dropping down the field. Fernandez and Peter Kummer as well, picks for today. Eric Sutton and Jake Garbino have clearly had troubles already. So Eric Sutton has had a very, very difficult start to this race. It's Gooden and Townend both come down the inside here and stay together. Very much seems like a pro and club combination. Just very much seems like the way to go. If you're going to win this race, of course, you've got a maximum of 1 pro in these 2 driver teams. So the next step down is a club driver. You've got to find one, and you've got to pair up with. But obviously, the speed and the competence of each driver in the second stint of the race is going to be different. So the order is going to totally change compared to what we see now.
Yeah, we think that we know how this race is going to work out, but come time for that second half, once we have the driver swaps, once we have a slightly more worn-in racetrack with some more rubber built into the racing line, and once the track conditions change as well, we're just going to have a completely different race on our hands. The track evolution certainly going to be huge around here. I do want to touch on the other weather conditions that we have right now, if I can navigate the new UI and figure out how it's all working out on my end here. About 85 degrees Fahrenheit as that current ambient temperature at this facility right now. And to break out all of the units of measurement, because I'm the only American in this broadcast booth right now, we'll break out the other measurements and let you know that that 85 degrees Fahrenheit works out roughly to about 29 C, and track temperature as well at 113 degrees Fahrenheit. That works out to 45 degrees Celsius. So pretty warm for the track conditions here today. These racers may actually have to worry about the tires being ever so slightly too hot in an odd way. It gets to that point where it can be a bit too greasy for these tires.
Yeah, we saw that, or spoke rather, at length in the opening rounds of the of Series 14 of the Sim Racing Championship, that it wasn't going to be a factor too much this season because it's an autumn to winter season. But well, tonight it clearly is a bit, as a look down the inside here on the way towards turn number 1. Rodney Campbell and Klaus Nielsen side by side, and Klaus Nielsen round the outside stays in front of Rodney Campbell. That was a good bit of actually defensive driving from the Breaking Bad Racing driver, I think it is, in that battle. Is that correct? No, it's Matrix Purple, sorry. Rodney Campbell's race for Breaking Bad Racing. Matrix Purple staying in front, but yeah, great bit of defensive driving by driving around the outside like that from Klaus Nielsen.
Yeah, that was a very slick move. So well done to these racers, keeping it clean, keeping it on the road, and giving us some brilliant racing to talk about as well. This is the sort of racetrack where you can hold on to those spots just as well as you can take it, as you look right behind side by side between Nielsen and Rodney Campbell as they head their way at turn number 7 onto this massively long back straightaway. The exit of that turn, probably the most important one around here by a quite significant margin. One of the most important turns on the entirety of iRacing, considering how disproportionately long this back straightaway is compared to the rest of the racetracks. I'll tell you this, Ewan, as that right there blinking it out was the blinking out big time there is Klaus Nielsen. He'll rejoin the racetrack after that brief alien abduction as he headed his way down into the chicane. But no, what I was going to say before one of the last big track changes around this track to add in that chicane, that whole back flat out section, that was a straight line. That was completely flat, even cresting the bridge, cresting the hill underneath the bridge. Imagine how terrifying that must have been back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah, certainly. It's it's a circuit that has undergone a few changes over the course of its history. Not as wide and not as long history, sorry, as you might expect. Just about to approach 55 years, so it's younger than the Porsche Club of America, this racetrack. And Petit Le Mans is a race that is a lot younger than you'd expect as well. It's only been running since 1998. So there you go. Still older than me, but I'm not going to mention it. And Ron, sorry, everybody else. Yes, it's not a very old race, but already a historic race, and a race that everybody looks forward to as well. Partly, I think, because it's such a great racetrack, and then a slightly unusual place for such a long race, but great as a result of that as well, as Klaus Nielsen comes into the final chicane again here with Campbell right not beside, but right behind, and Campbell not quite able to work his way past. But we've already gone over 1/4 distance here in the 70 for 70 from Road Atlanta.
let's remind you, of course, that Princess Cruises are on board as our 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of 2025, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Now, just as I was saying that, a couple of incidents there for Rodney Campbell. I heard the tyre squeal in my ears as I was looking away, and I can see that Rodney Campbell is no longer there. Klaus Nielsen, though, survives. He stays fourth. Mark Duran gets away, but Campbell unfortunately drops down the field.
Yeah, I think Campbell's had another moment as well, because he is losing time big time now, ticking up to about 50 seconds behind and losing out on another spot. He drops down to 10th. He must have had some major slides and is probably dealing with those tires just absolutely destroyed in that GT4 machine. Now, whether the tires have been worn down to the canvas or whether or not the tires are just overcooked remains to be determined, but either way, for the number 86 car of Rodney Campbell, it has been a disastrous lap of this race for him. He's got to look to try and dust himself off as well as he possibly can, but that's a huge setback as we get a little bit farther along in this race. And I'm going to do this just so nobody else can do it for me. I'm going to amend my statement earlier on talking about the back flat out blast of this track probably being terrifying back in the 60s. I even said this earlier on. This track was opened back in 1970, so I retract my previous statement.
It's a long time ago anyway. It's all the same, isn't it? There you go. From 1970 to 1997, yeah, had no chicane on the back straight. It was called the dip. I think drivers probably had other words for it as well, but there you go. That's what it was called officially before the revamp in 1998, and it's kept its character ever since those days. Now, adding a motorcycle circuit and a short circuit as well. I used to have a motorcycle circuit anyway. There you go. There's a bit of track history for you. White Gooden continues to lead. 21 laps complete here in the Porsche Club of America 70 for 70. Celebrating 70 years of the Porsche Club of America with 70 laps here from Road Atlanta. And White Gooden's leading. It's been a nice, comfortable race, actually, from Gooden, and Blake Townend right behind keeping him honest. But these two now have started to break away from the rest of the field, and they've seen off the early challenge from the last 10th teams.
Oh, that they really have. They have turned up the wick in both of these machines. They've put their nose to the grindstone, and they're slowly but surely eking that gap ever so slightly farther out lap after lap. I always talk about this in reference to reeling a gap in and trying to get close to a racer. There's no point attacking at with a chainsaw. You're better off just slowly and methodically going about it with a nail file. And the opposite can be said in reference to this in terms of building a gap instead of trying to close it down. If you just go about it in a methodical way, you just get a couple of, even if it's a half a tenth, a full tenth, maybe a couple of tenths every now and then, or even if there's one lap where you don't gain a whole lot of time and you may lose a little bit, don't let that get into your head too much. Once you get into your head and think, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, that's when those mistakes begin to pile up. Putting that pressure on yourself. A racer can put the most amount of pressure on himself out of anybody else. You see it a lot, both in the sim and in real life. A driver can more often than not be their greatest critic, and they can be their greatest downfall as well. Being a driver in karts for as long as I did, and now granted, I didn't really do it at a high level. I just did autocross stuff with the SCCA, but I did enough national events. I competed and won enough championships to know that the mental side of things, even on the autocross side of things, was always so important. If I started beating myself up, that would be when those mistakes would start to pile up. And even in the sim as well, if I'm thinking about a mistake that I did 2 laps ago, I'm probably not even going to be able to hit the apexes that I did a couple of laps beforehand.
It's all about the rhythm in these races. That is for sure. Even in one of these shorter races. One of these stints actually might end up being shorter than a Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series race, which you can catch, by the way, every Wednesday and Thursday here on Racebot TV. We'll be back with round 2 of the Pro and Club Championships on Wednesday and Thursday this week. Coming to you from Watkins Glen, just going back north again in the country after our opener at Spa. This meantime is the battle for 10th place overall in this race. It's between Edition Ren and Stallion's 550C. And the whole load besides that as well. Look at this crowd behind one of the Caymans coming in towards turn 6. Not what you want to see as a slower class driver as the first one comes through. You just try and facilitate these moves as cleanly and as seamlessly as possible.
Yeah, what I can appreciate about this race is the fact that these GT3 Cup drivers have had to deal with GT4 traffic in pretty much every single part of this racetrack, whether it be on the back straightaway, at the bottom end of the circuit through turns number 6 and 7, whether it be in the chicane or off through the S's. These racers in those Cup cars have had to deal with that slower lap traffic in just about every single part, and we haven't seen too much drama go on. That interclass drama has been kept down to a minimum, and I think that speaks volumes about the talent that we have in this series. Many a racer that we see up and down the field do fantastic in those Porsche Club of America regular broadcasted races, and here in this special event, even though some of them are maybe dealing, I say dealing, that's the racer mindset for you right there. Some of them may be dealing with their new teammates. They may have to try and get used to that. They may have to get used to these new GT4 cars, especially at that brand new season build, with people being a little bit split on the way the car is driving down season 4 of 2025. There's a lot of spinning plates that these racers are having to keep spinning, but it really speaks volumes about the talent in this series. The fact that outside of a couple of blips every now and then, we've had a rather solid first 25 laps of this race.
I don't know about you, but just on that point about the new Cayman and the new way it handles, it's not new, but you know, it seems to me the way people were talking about it before the race is, maybe I'll eat my words here. Well, Mark Doran very much not at fault for that. He was running inside the top 2 at stages already this afternoon, but has been shoved to the outside there and lost out to Klaus Nielsen and little Eddie as well, who is now right behind Mark Doran again. But just on the point of those Caymans, the way people were speaking about them, I thought we were going to see loads of spins early on here and throughout the race actually on that Cayman, but it's just not been the case so far.
You know, when we got word, it was at some point yesterday afternoon when we got word from the fantastic people here at Porsche Club of America, kind of letting us know about the split opinions that people have had about the 718 car, about how there may be a bit of drama. I flashed my mind back to coming up to 3 years ago at this point. It was right as I got into broadcasting. I was brand new. I'm talking like this was probably my 3rd ever show. It was a season opener for what at the time was called the Radical Racing Challenge, now the Radical Esports Cup here on Race Spots, and driving in those SR10s were many of the racers that still run in that series to this day. And I remember broadcasting that race. It was my 3rd or 4th ever show, and there was, I think of the 24 drivers we had in that race, 22 of them were involved in an incident in that official race at Road America that day. I remember at the time thinking, oh, what in the world is going on here? I came to find out that SR10 had been updated in the season swap over that basically made it drive like a Formula 1 car from the 1930s. It felt like the wheels were bolted on sideways. Even if you looked at the throttle pedal, you would go off the track as, oh, that's nearly going off the track for Antonio DiVincenzo. He's going to lose out on a spot potentially.
Well, he's already a lap down on these guys, I think, but this is all very close with a number of others around him at the moment. But it's nice to see an in-car view from one of these guys, as I mentioned before. I think I mentioned on Thursday. It's great to see the in-car views from these guys, see what the setup's looking like and so on. Thanks to DiVincenzo for that. He's driving the G-Square Motorsport car at the moment, but Dave Douglas and Antonio Da Silva are supposed to be the drivers there, so I don't know what's going on there with that. But DiVincenzo's driving at the moment. I don't know what that's all about, but there you go. We're approaching half distance already in this race, would you believe it? Just 9 laps away from 35 laps of the 70 we're going to have here tonight in the Porsche Club of America 70 for 70. There's Klaus Nielsen coming to 3rd. There's another camera view as well. A triple screen display with the it looks like motion and simulation as well, bouncing across the curves and the bumps of Road Atlanta. Yes, I always enjoy seeing the setups for these guys and seeing what they've got. Motion simulation's not something you see too often used in competitive sim racing like this, but Klaus Nielsen using it at the moment and going rather well with it as well inside the top 3.
Hey, the full immersion seems to be working well for Klaus behind the wheel of that number 4 machine in the GT4 category. Very striking looking race car, a very nice looking sim rig as well. I'll tell you what, Gun, and this is honest, his sim rig probably cost more than some vital bodily organs in my body would go on the black market.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, you might need to sell a liver or something to, or is it a kidney? Sorry, don't sell your liver. Sell a kidney to pay for one of these things.
See,
I don't know how much to go for.
See, I'm not an expert when it comes to all of that. I went to public school in the city of Philadelphia. I didn't go to that kind of school in the city of Philadelphia. But I feel like I would be slightly at a disadvantage, though, because back in my karting days, I did bruise some of my kidneys in some incidents in the karting days. So I'm not sure if I'd be able to get the same sort of deal that others would get. So I may have to get shot of a lung or something of that just sell my lung on the black. But it is going off the rails. Let's
Market, you can feel the market value going down with every goodness.
Oh boy, not touching that one.
Meantime, through the S's, a little bit more slipping through of traffic. Now 2 laps down for some of those Caymans, but not quite all just yet. The race leader coming up to the back of the 4 car in 3rd place at the moment. As I mentioned, 4 laps down is expected for these guys, but to be honest, the way Michael Polisek's going, you might well end up a lap ahead of the field completely. I mean, we saw this in the team racing series all the way back. I think it was in February, actually, maybe March. Certainly early on this year in 2025, the results and the amount that finished on the lead lap, the different laps we saw throughout, massive, because this circuit is so short. But the gap that Polisek is gaining is just extraordinary. As we have another look at David Glenn, we always do this. He always posts his camera, and we always marvel at the at the setup here and just the busyness, to be honest, of what's going on around him.
I'm not going to bring up the discussion from a couple of moments ago. I'm going to leave that be and say that's a very good looking setup, 10 out of 10. I also appreciate the other lightsaber on the wall, some fantastic stuff there. But now, Michael Polisek behind the wheel of that 145 car, putting in a rather dominating drive as it stands right now. Now, we don't want to beat on this drum too much, though, because knowing what I've done to many a racer in my iRacing broadcasting career, that 28-second gap would probably disappear in the blink of an eye, and he would strike the bridge coming out of the chicane right here, which I'm not sure if you've ever got acclimatized to that yourself, Ewan, but iRacing does actually have that marked off as a solid structure on the track. And the only reason I know that is because I was doing an F4 race here one time. Someone got involved in some sort of drama and actually struck the bridge. So the more you know.
Oh, there you go. I've forgotten the sound that goes with it, but there you go. It's a bridge that's nearly been hit. Nearly been hit in real life as well. I'm sure you've all seen the footage on the back straight of some aerial action here at Road Atlanta. It's very spectacular. There's Eric Sutton again, another one of our driver cameras looking here this afternoon. Should just go through some of the prizes, actually, and some of the things that are up for grabs here today, because I know we ripped through them rather quickly at the start of the race. We've got a moment or two while we continue to watch the battle for 4th place between Little Edie and Mark Duran, trying to come back through the field again after that spin down at turn 6 a few minutes ago. I'll just mention the prizes again. For both classes, 1st place gets a grill badge and a 70th anniversary cap. For 2nd place team, it's a polo shirt and a cap, and for 3rd place, t-shirt and a cap for the top 3 teams in this race in both classes. The cleanest overall team will have a polo shirt. Of course, if that's a tie, then the iRacing tiebreaker rules will apply for the overall cleanest team. And for the best car livery, a 70th anniversary polo shirt for both team members. Now, that's going to be judged by us here at the end of tonight. As we have another look at Enrico Gregorato, who is starting that flying line racing car, and the man, the myth, the Gerald Gregory will get into the car a little bit later on for that one. But what I'm fundamentally saying is, to anybody in YouTube chat who wants to, help us out, decide which is the best livery in the field, because there's what is there, 36 to choose from. And, we've only got 3 opinions up here in the box, myself, Ron and Ramiro. We're welcome to votes in from you as well if you want, although I can't promise to go with any of them. any suggestions would be nice, but any caught your eye early on? I've got to say Flying Line Racing actually looked quite good now since we're looking at it, but that might just be a bit of immediate recency bias for me looking at that there.
Yeah, I do like that car. I'm a fan of dark blue. I am partial to the color blue. I absolutely adore it. You got the stars on there as well, which I'm always a fan of, and the silver looking pretty nice as well. I will say, though, talking about who has the power to decide what here on this paint scheme decision for us here, the person who actually has the most amount of power here on this show is our producer Ramiro, because if he disagrees with what we're saying, he can just cut our microphones off to go out on the air. So at the end of the day, it is Mr. Ramiro Augustin Cisneros in the production booth doing a wonderful job as well. He has the most power because he is the one that controls our mics going out or not.
You make a good point. Yes, that is very true. Although I don't think he would do that. He says.
You know, yeah, it's like you say that, and next thing you know, you immediately jinx it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, but nice.
Oh, that was
nice
cheap.
joke.
Anyways,
I could see that coming from a mile away. By the way, I spotted that coming.
That's slick as 80 grit sandpaper.
Mark Duran outside line on the way towards the chicane. Inside for the second part, bit of side-to-side contact just in front of the back. Oh, and off there for AD as Duran there tried to muscle his way through. There's a cup car trying to come through as well. That's the battle for 5th place in the cup class, coming through on the battle for 4th in the Caymans. And Mark Duran muscles his way past with AD ending up out in the grass and the gravel on the outside there.
Yeah, and Edie having to battle that race car for a solid couple of corners. It was like a half a mile that car was teetering with being on the track or off it, picking up those incident points, collecting them like Pokemon cards at the end of that lap. An unfortunate moment to be sure, and that gap has ballooned out a decent amount between those two racers. But again, we still have over half of this race left to go. Still plenty of time for Eddie to try and reel in that gap, but certainly a couple of code brand moments right in rapid succession of each other.
Oh dear, this is the moment itself. This all looks okay for now. Oh, it's just a bit of an awkward contact, isn't it, really, that sends the 19 car a little bit wide. And in the end, the cup cars go either side of Duran, who will have not known where to go there, really. Just hold your line, I suppose, and wait for it to be over. Shut your eyes and hope is really the strategy there. And yeah, that was good that they all got out of it. Duran actually been reeled straight back in again, though, by Edie, who's not quite close enough into the final chicane here. And whenever there's been a little bit of contact, there's always a score to settle. Not stock car racing style. It's going to be settled nicely, but Edie will certainly want a response here and to get back into 4th.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what Edie can really do to try and rethink exactly how this move can be performed, figure out how to do it well. When you go for a move around here, it has got to be commanding, whether it be going on the brakes, being last of the late breakers in that battle down into the final chicane, or whether it be capitalizing on a mistake from your competitors. You can get it done. It's just a matter of how exactly you decide to do it at the end of all that. As we could see Gregorado again passing the number 70 car off through the S's. That is sketchy touch and go stuff there, as Marcos Souza actually made the call to come down pit lane in the GT3 Cup class. As we get a little bit closer to the halfway mark of this race here, and we talked about a little bit earlier on how some of these racers may decide to say, you know what, we're not going to overthink this, let's just call it at the middle, decide to say screw it, we're going to come in exactly at the halfway mark of this race. And if that just so happens to be the case, we're now in that prime window. Here we go. The pit stops may be coming up soon for many a team up and down the grid.
Yep, Souza will be handing over to Devin Hopkins at some point this afternoon. Have a bit of a slow-mo through the final corner. Two-wheel action through the final turn in these Caymans. I suspect that's sort of the line they have to employ, really, just to go around there absolutely flat out. But I'm not entirely sure. I've not driven one of these actually around here. Kevin Joker was in a moment ago. Be handing over to Avijit Barua at some point. That's a pro and sport class driver combination. And just one more on the prizes, by the way, just before I forget. There is actually a prize for any team that takes on this race with 2 challenge class drivers. Teams that do so will get a 70th anniversary cap as well. So at the moment, 2 teams are going to be doing that. Les Carmichael and Jonathan Sasportas, who are in the Maverick GT4 car. They are currently in 14th place, ahead of D Squared Motorsport, who are not doing the challenge. Alex Lidback and Dave Jones as well will be doing this race as two challenge class drivers as well. So hopefully they are here and they will be doing that as well. It doesn't look like they have actually entered in the end, but they're on the entry list. So it looks like it's just going to be the one team to do this with two challenge class drivers. And fair play to two challenge class drivers for doing that, because you know, it's for some of these challenge class drivers anyway, of the 20 or so we got on Thursday night, it's their first season in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, certainly first season in the challenge class, and you know, it's a pretty daunting prospect to join in. So doing a race here without one of the quote-unquote professionals, if you like, or more experienced drivers anyway in this series is, well, hats off to them for taking on such a challenge here today. As we hit lap 35, at the end of this one, we're about a minute or so away from half distance.
Yeah, this race has absolutely flown by up to this point as we see these racers make their calls to come down pit lane. Just saw some damage getting repaired a few moments ago with a racer down in the pits. Just want to touch on this, talking about the rules of this event. 2 fast repairs allotted to these racers, not just one. So if they do happen to get struck by a falling anvil a little bit later on, it will not be game over if they already took their fast repair during this upcoming scheduled round of stops. Some damage on many a racer up and down the grid, just some war wounds of what has been a somewhat physical race at certain points in time for many competitors up and down the grid, but for the most part it has been a rather smooth one. Do want to touch quickly before we head off into the pit cycle fully about the track conditions that have still been evolving as this race has gone on. Ambient temperatures remaining about the same at 30 C or 85 Fahrenheit. The track temperatures, on the other hand, have gone down somewhat. They're a little bit earlier on there at about 115, 113 Fahrenheit, if my memory serves me correctly. Somewhere in that ballpark. Right now, we're at 110 Fahrenheit. So it's still, I mean, you wouldn't want to walk around this track barefoot, especially when there's 160-mile-an-hour race cars barreling around it who may hit you. But even then, you wouldn't want to walk around this track barefoot with those high track temps.
Imagine the rubber would be disgusting as well. But that's by the by.
There's a story I could share there.
Oh, well, maybe later. Or maybe not at all.
It's about drag racing.
We'll see. Oh dear, that is sticky. Anyway, we have officially gone over half distance now. We are going to go through a run through. Actually, let's do it just before the pit window really opens here, and the pit stops really start to come thick and fast. You want to just highlight all of these teams all the way throughout the field and show you who is where. So first of all, in the Porsche Cup class, just before it all explodes here in the pit stop phase, White Gooden is leading the way for Simshop Eagles Canyon Raceway, leading by 1.3 seconds, and has been since the very start. It's been a comfortable lead and a comfortable drive so far from Gooden ahead of Blake Townend, who has been chasing and following indeed in second place. Kerry Brooks and Chris Braun for last 10th in their two respective teams, number 011 and 012 in third and fourth. And then there's a bit of a gap back really to that battle for fifth we were just following a couple of moments ago. Boxenlund and Rennsport for Thomas Isabel just ahead of Jacob Schum for Zoom Schum in sixth place. David Fernandez another 5 seconds back for Gone Broke Racing, with then Enrico Gregorato in eighth position, another 5 seconds back rather. Going to be handing over to JR Gregory a little bit later on here today. The other Gone Broke Racing cars being driven by Chris Sherburn at the moment in ninth place. Pat Klein is rounding out the top 10 in the Porsche Cup class for the moment, despite running a little bit better actually early on. Went in for an early drive-through and has been recovering for that ever since. 11th place for R-Speed and Eric Sutton, who has been recovering from multiple spins over the course of the day. Drive-throughs for Stallion GT3 Cup, driven by Aaron Sunday and Vicek Warriors, who is being headed by Matt Odell at the moment. They are still yet to come in for their pit stops proper yet. And the first of those who has made their stop is Matthew Siddle in the Matrix 70s car. That's just 13 seconds ahead of Stallions Rock Around the Clock. That was Ankerberg Song, who we just saw getting into that car actually on pit lane just in the last couple of minutes while I was going through the top 10. Chad Henson's got into Turbo Rennsport in the 16th placed car. 45 second stop for them. Kellen Heimbuscher is 17th for Autocrosses Racing. with Stallions 550C Jeremy Hall in 18th. Devon Hopkins has indeed got into 74, as I said he would. Matrix Silver and Matrix Green then round out the 21 Porsche Cup cars who are in this race. I will wait for the Caymans to make their stops before I go through them in their entirety. So we just approach 4 o'clock in Sim. You're watching the Porsche Club of America 70 for 70, celebrating 70 years of Porsche Club of America with 70 laps from the virtual road Atlanta in Georgia. 44 degrees Celsius on the track, as he said, just over 110 Fahrenheit. And that track temperature is only going to dip from here, and that'll be a relief to the Porsche Cup drivers, because some of them have not changed tyres based on the pit stop times I'm seeing come in at the moment.
Yeah, I can imagine some of those tires are going to be screaming in agony come time for the end of this race. Track temperatures continuing to fluctuate. It has gone up somewhat ever since I last went through the numbers, but that was mainly because it was a little bit cloudy at that point in time. The track a bit darker. It's still going to be firmly along in the day as we had a little bit later on in this race, as Michael Polisek has made the call to come down pit lane from the race lead in the GT4 class. He's joined by many a GT4 competitor. Seems like the pit window was very much so open in that category, as we see a whole plethora of racers coming down pit lane, really breaking out the thesaurus with that word.
Michael Polisek is going to be sort of getting out of that car as well and handing over to John Gibson, who is a club class driver. I'm going to be hoping that his pace is enough to hold on to the lead that he's been given by Michael Polisek at the front of this field. What a great drive it's been from Polisek in that G-Force racing car. Got to say, this is another contender for me for liveries, by the way. I know it's a strange combination of colours, green and blue, but I do quite like the eccentricness of that.
It's kind of goofy in an odd way. I like it. It's like a cartoon monster.
I think Ramiro's what's the nomination? That's the word. Nominations come in for Visec Warriors number 6. If I'm reading that correctly. That's a good livery as well. I quite like that. We'll get Matt Odell up again a little bit later. There he is. There he is. Yeah, I quite like that as well. Well, we're getting some... This is the problem now. I was hoping to get to the end of the race just liking one livery and then it'd be very easy, but it's not going to be very easy, is it? That's a very nice livery as well.
You know, that's a very good looking race car. The rainbow sort of psychedelic scheme on it looks like something that you would see out of the 70s. So I guess it is fitting to run that in the 70 for 70 event, in the 70 lap long race in a track that was built back in 1970. That's a very good looking paint scheme. I'll give my shout out to the number 29 Matrix Silver car. I like that sort of shade of like palish blue. I think I may be definitely biased though, because that's roughly the same color as the wall paint in my room.
Yeah, that's biased there, but you know, I don't like this car as well. This is going terribly now. I'm liking all of them. Battle for 19th in the meantime while we're here is on the defensive for Hopkins, and he stays in front for Edition Rent in car 74, but that was nicely done indeed. But yeah, we have got some decisions to make a little bit later on as far as the liveries competition go. If you're just joining us, by the way, there will be a prize for the best livery voted for by us. But you can put your own suggestions in if you want in the YouTube chat and help us out decide if you want to as well. Because it's going to be a very, very difficult decision to make at the end of this broadcast, that's for sure. I'm a terrible livery maker, but I've got to say, I absolutely love watching talented livery makers make great liveries, and they certainly have to in this series. That's I think there's 4 or 5 on my shortlist now.
Yeah, I think we're slowly but surely thinning out the herd of some wonderful paint schemes that we have up and down the grid. As there's a very simple looking race car of the number 5 machine of David Fernandez. Telefunken. I like that on the front of the car. Very, very old school. I'm a fan of that. That looks pretty cool. I don't think it's a nomination for me as the best livery, just because you've got the blue square on the front that does kind of I wouldn't necessarily say ruin the immersion, but it definitely snaps you back to reality in a sense. There's some pit stops going on with Michael McKinney and Donald Manning now behind the wheel of the 718 Code Red machine. I like that. That is a good looking race car. I see, as much as I'm a fan of blue, I like my red as well. That is a very clean looking race car.
This is a terrible idea. We're just voting for everybody. Dear, oh dear.
Everybody gets the prize.
Yeah. That's what we're doing at the moment. Goodness me. I'm also enjoying your comments on the mid part of the last century, by the way, as if you were around at all to see any of it. That's making me chuckle quite a lot.
See, I think the fact that I'm just like barely knocking on the door of 21 in a couple of months, I think that gets offset by the fact that my dad at the end of this month is going to be turning 68.
Crikey. Well, there you go. There's your education in 60s and 70s, I presume. Although, yeah, you did say that Road Atlanta was around in the 60s. It's fine. We'll let that one slide. There's Matrix Purple, Paddy James Schommert, one of our challenge class drivers who's gotten into that car now, taken over from Klaus Nielsen. And I hope that Schommert is able to keep on a good result, actually, just to be serious about the race for a second for Matrix Purple. I mean, Nielsen did well in the first part of the race, but to see a challenge class driver now hold on for the final 30 laps for a great result, I think would be absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that would be a brilliant result for them, and a well-earned one as well. It has been a very tough race for these racers to try and tackle. Not the best track conditions, if we're being honest. We've talked at length about the track temps, how high it is, and the fact that it's probably feeling very greasy for the tires on these cars. Been a hectic race for the GT4s and the GT3 Cup cars as well, as they've had to deal with lap traffic as pretty much a constant ever since the drop of the green flag. Once we got to that lap traffic, we're probably at the point now, as we're not too terribly far removed from the halfway mark of this race, we're probably at the point where pretty much every single foot, every single corner of this racetrack has at least one car either around it or driving through it at that exact point in time. The field rather spread out at the moment. Such a challenging combination as well of conditions and having to deal with the lap traffic all throughout. And plus, as I said right towards the start of this show, despite it being a very well-used track, as that was nearly a disaster with the 56 and the 13, that could have ended in tears with Shum and Isabel. Couple of blows down to turn number 13, well held from Isabel, had to take to the grass to avoid making severe contact.
And don't forget, the Porsche Cup cars don't have to have come in by now, because they can go a lot longer on fuel. Despite the 90% fuel limit, still doesn't especially restrict them to halfway. And look at this. Jeff Williams would have been having his heart in his mouth there. He was just racing on the racing line here, and Jacob Sum and Thomas Isabel were expecting him to, I guess, be leaving a bit more room, I suppose, but just doing the racing line, and eventually they get past. But that was a very, very close moment over the top of the hill there. Another one of those classic moments in traffic here at Road Atlanta, of course. As we approach the halfway point in this race, I've already run through the Porsche Cup cars, so I will go through the Caymans now as well. But just to remind you before we do, there's Blake Townend, who is now the race leader overall in this one. 26 laps from the finish of this race. And right behind, Wyatt Gooden continues to follow in behind as well. The Caymans, meanwhile, in the back, we'll go through those in a moment. We're just cycling through the Cup cars for now. The top, 11 of these haven't stopped yet. Then you've got those who have started to make pit stops. Below that, as we're on that car of the 011, Kerry Brooks gets into Devon Hopkins, and that is a crash in towards turn 6, and quite a big one actually as well for Brooks. He's got front end damage there. Yeah, and you can see a GT4 car spun off in the midst of all of that. That was a huge amount of drama. I wonder if that was what we've been kind of fearing would happen at some point in this race. Certainly not knocking the skill of these racers. Very talented, but there's only so much you can do on a narrow, old-school track with a whole lot of racers, and some just trying to settle into the groove as we take a look at this moment involving Mark Lacombe in that number 19 machine. He was the one that caused at the epicenter of all that. As you can see him and the 010 of Niki Chan behind the wheel of that car, and nearly ended in disaster as they headed their way out of 5 and then into 6. Just lost it on the inside curve, and then contact being made, more contact being made. Sorry, I was looking away and didn't quite see the start of that. So yeah, Lacombe was the one that goes around. But here is your Cayman run through. G-Force Racing leading the way. John Gibson's been given just over 40 seconds by Michael Polasek to hold on to at the front of the field. Andrew Hillman is first chaser in the check engine champion, number 33. Then third place is Matrix Purple, Bailey James Schommer. Be a great story if the challenge driver can hold on to a podium for Matrix Purple. He's got 25 laps to do it. Mike Sachs is then fourth place ahead of Nicky Chan. That's a battle. You can see Chan just in the background there. Battle for fourth position. Bit of a gap then back to Michael McKinney, who is in the Imperial Motorsports 77 car. And there's a battle you can see. Sixth place between himself and Gary Rice in the Breaking Bad Racing 86. Rich TPC, Rich Domazio, is in 8th position, rather on his own, ahead of a battle for Schadenfreude Fodder and last 10th Great White. That rounds out the top 10 as Rosenthal and Derek Dirksen fight things out. There they are. Rosenthal on the left-hand side here, letting a couple of Cup drivers through as Dirksen closes in, and he's going to close in further with those Cup cars going side by side. In fact, it's Isabel and Shum, isn't it, who are going side by side right in front of them. Jeff Williams is next in line for the other Schadenfreude Fodder car. Then RAFL. These are guys, by the way, are starting to become a lap down now. Mark Lacombe, we just saw in that incident. D-Squared Motorsport for Dave Douglas is next, and Maverick GT4, the last car in the field, but still going at least at the back end of the field. Currently being driven by Les Carmichael in number 9. So good to see them still going. And the only team with 2 challenge class drivers taking part in this race, and they'll get a 70th anniversary cap as a result for that. Meantime, Isabel and Shum take their battle to the pit stop, but Jacob Shum overshoots his box, and whichever teammate takes over, or David Glenn who takes over, is going to be out first by the looks of things in this battle for third. Or it'll be lower later, but third for now.
Yeah, so once again, the pit stop's going to be a huge factor in deciding how things are all going to shake out at the end of this race. We are expecting the pit stops to be a super important role in how things are going to work out, and that is certainly going to be how it works out here at the end of it all. But as we see Shum up on the jacks in that number 56 machine, you can see some war wounds on that car as well. Haven't seen the other bumper get replaced, though, so I think this 56 car opting not to use their faster pairs again. 2 faster pairs allotted to those racers, so a little bit surprising as there come in the Sim Shop Eagles Canyon teammates, the 18 and the 57. Steve Komatz got behind the wheel of the 18, Mark Foley now behind the wheel of the 57, but the 2 teammates now going to be line astern on pit lane as they have been on the racetrack for quite some time.
Yeah, and it's going to be a battle between those 2 for the victory, isn't it, at the end of today. Foley now a club class driver, I should say, after being moved up from sport previously. Ben Buckley under a bit of pressure here for third place, but this is Callum Heimbush unlapping himself. Komat gets out of the pit lane just in front of Foley, but look at that, the gap extends to 2 seconds, and that is the race. Komat with 2 seconds to nurse over Foley for the remaining 24 laps.
Yeah, not a lot of time left to go in this race. We thought, oh yeah, this is going to be a long one. It is going to be a treacherous ride for these competitors. As much as a treacherous ride has certainly been the way that many racer would probably describe this race up to this point, it has gone by rather quickly. I wouldn't necessarily say it's been the shortest race in the world, but as I said a little bit earlier on in the show, Ewan, it's not too terribly much longer than the regular Porsche Club of America races that we broadcast here on RaceSpot TV every single Wednesday and Thursday throughout this season 14 that we're now just getting underway. It's a pretty long race, but those regular races are pretty long as well. Looking through right now, your race leader on the last lap had clicked past the 1 hour mark, and we still have a decent amount of racing left to go, but it's not the longest race in the world. It's certainly on the longer end, but these racers, they've been through worse.
Longer end of short, but there we go. Yes, it also brings into view, doesn't it, the need for the fuel limit that we have in the normal series, because otherwise we just wouldn't have pit stops, even with a 90% fuel limit. So it's good that we do have the restrictions in place for the series. While the battle for fourth continues on your screen, I'd like to remind you, of course, that we're delighted to have Princess Cruises on board as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of 2025, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Well, thanks to them for getting on board with the 70 for 70 here tonight. 70 laps of racing from Road Atlanta, celebrating 70 years of Porsche Club of America here in 2025. It's been a great event to do so, I've got to say. Dale Green, meanwhile, gets into the car, previously driven by Chris Sherburn, and I think, I'm not going to say that officially yet, but I think that is the final driver change that needs to be made here today, and just 23 laps in that case for Dale Green. Might even be 22 as that car gets put a lap down, if it indeed does, by Steve Commemorates at the front of the field. A short run to the finish, but easily within the fair share rules, which are not very restrictive.
Yeah, I gotta say, I appreciate the other rules that this event has in terms of setting these races up. There are some guidelines that they have to do, but it's not like everything isn't down to a science to the point where everybody has to do the exact same thing. I can appreciate a little bit of openness so you can experiment a little bit. That's one great thing that I love about endurance racing, especially at a track like this. This sort of racetrack lends itself to being tackled in various different ways by various different drivers. You take one of these teams, one driver may have a different way that they go about tackling, let's just say turn number 6, for instance, as we see the number 77 car of Michael McKinley head his way all through there. And then the other driver in that car may be tackling that part of the track entirely differently. Trying to find that happy medium is such a cool thing in my book about sports car racing. I'm definitely maybe in the minority about all that. I love the small little intricacies of multi-driver and multi-class sports car racing.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this race, the multi-class element between the Cup and the GT4s. Through the final chicane, Breaking Bad Racing getting close to the Imperial Motorsports car in 6th place. McKinney trying to keep Gary Rice behind. And Rich Del Mazzo is there as well. It's a 3-car battle for 6th on the way down towards turn number 1, and Del Mazzo is not close enough on this occasion to make the move. 3 Caymans in a line, and this is a bit of a Cup driver's nightmare, isn't it, really? Navigating these 3 chicanes, effectively. This trio battling, probably the best battle in the field, actually. 3 stuck together for 6th place at the moment.
Yeah, 3 cars all running line astern, having that GT3 Cup traffic just hounding them from behind. It gets a little bit sketchy, but there's got to be even more treacherous as they head their way in the small flat out blast between turns 5 and 6. Look at the 135 car splitting the difference as a Breaking Bad Motorsports car of Gary Reese has to take evasive action. May have been a little bit of contact that, or Reese was like, you know what, I have an absolutely terrible feeling about this, and he just jumped out of the way. A sentiment which I can't necessarily fault him for having. Side-by-side racing all through the bottom end of the circuit through turns number 6 and 7. It does 2 things. Firstly, it slows you up big time heading your way down the back straightaway into the turn 10 chicane. It's also just really risky. It is not a high percentage move to go for something like that. Chances are, if you go for a move down into the bottom end of the track through that heavy braking zone to 6, it's just designed in a very specific way, that corner, with a little bit of anti-camber in an odd way. The track falls away from you. Also is a little bit blind through that part of the track as well. Side-by-side racing can work, but you need to get it done with authority and keep your fingers crossed that doesn't end in disaster, which it very easily can do.
Oh, side-by-side over the top of the hill. I didn't think he was actually going to do that, Rich Del Mazzo. But he was just looking, but no, he actually went through with it as well, over the top of the hill. Down the other side, McKinney keeps the place for now, but wow, that was close. Into turn 5, there might have been contact there as well. Now this is where Gary Rice is just going to gain on these 2 as a result. And another look on the left-hand side here from Del Mazzo. McKinney will surely have to go on the defensive and didn't protect the inside line. It allows Rich Del Mazzo to go down the inside and up into 6th position. Well, that was the move to be made. In the end, he was pretty urgently wanting to get it done. You could see how aggressive he was being. He wanted to get that done quickly, and he does.
And gets that move done with authority. It's still not going to be over yet, as you can see that number 77 hounding the back of the car right in front as we jump to this action for the battle in 2nd in the GT4 category as Bailey James Schomer and Andrew Hillman. Schomer off the back of running this past week in the Cup car. I remember it was a pretty interesting race for him, if my memory serves me correctly, in the 4 car, but holding on to a good spot right now in this GT4 machine. And to go back to an earlier point that you raised, is Andrew Hillman really losing out some time in this lap, dropping down by about 2 seconds. I was just going to say, you know, entering this race, we didn't really know what to think when it came to the GT4 cars, as we were thinking, okay, are they going to be handling like trash bags full of mango pulp getting thrown down a flight of stairs? Like, how exactly are these cars going to handle? I certainly cannot speak for these racers, considering I'm behind a microphone instead of behind the wheel, but haven't really seen too much drama in the GT4 category. The bits of drama that we have seen, it's been incidents, contact being made.
Yeah, absolutely. This meantime is Matrix 70s steaming down the inside of the Flying Line Racing team. Matthew Siddle straight past JR Gregory and into 7th position. Siddle much quicker at the moment, although he is a pro driver, versus JR Gregory, who is in the club class, so you can certainly understand why that pass has been made, but maybe not start to understand why Siddle didn't start this Matrix 70s car. You can see he's very quick, but just been given a lot of work to do, really, for these final 40-odd laps.
Yeah, I think there is some method to the madness in the midst of all of that. A lot of these teams probably decide to get the race started by putting their, for lack of a better term, putting their best foot forward, so to speak. At the same time, though, if you decide to save up your stuff for a little bit farther along in this race, as we see some very gutsy stuff there from the 012, your current P3 runner in GT3 Cup, trying to duke it out with your race leader in the GT4 category of John Gibson, dealing with some in-class lap traffic. But no, what I was going to say, talking about, you know, one thing, contact being made between two GT4s as they headed their way down into turn number 3 and spinning off the track big time there. I'm not sure who that was in that machine going off the track in rather dramatic fashion.
Was it Mark Lecombe again?
I think that may have been,
similar.
yeah.
Not quite similar car, actually. But we'll find out in a moment just who it was. This is the battle for third, by the way, between Hillman and Mike Sachs, who's trying not to get boxed in here by one of the...
Oh!
No! Whoa, where's he going here? And he's going to stop it in time just about. He stops it on the apex. And Mike Sachs gets up to third. I'm not sure that was all under control, but he's got it done in the end.
What kind of intimidation tactic was that from Mike Sachs? I'm not really sure if he intended to make that work. He did, though. He's now moved his way up into third. May need a change of fire suit once this race is said and done, because that could have ended in catastrophe. I was fully expecting that car to auger straight into the concrete wall. That is genuinely what I expected. Well, wowzers. Right as I was talking about a little bit of color commentary, then we go off into pandemonium. That move from Mike Sachs. If we were giving an award for, how would we describe it? The most unintentional, but still pretty cool overtaking maneuver of the race, patent pending trademark. He would probably win it with that maneuver down to the chicane. I'm not sure if he intended for that to happen. He kind of scared him out of the way, because I'm sure that number 33 car of Hillman was thinking, oh, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, certainly would have been. Oh, another looking at a 3-wide moment here as well, and thankfully it wasn't attempted in the end. Chad Henson trying to get past William Wolf at the moment in this Porsche Cup class. Just in behind them is another Cup car, actually, but not for position. Callan Heimbuscher is next in line in the class, but be a few cars further behind in this battle for 11th. Still plenty going on at the moment. 16 laps to go as things stand. Steve Komatz has really run away with the current race lead. Ben Buckley is more likely to catch Foley actually for second than anything else, but further down the field the battles will continue, and again it's a feature of this format, really, the fact there's two drivers and it's enforced that you can't have two pros. It means that there's different driver skills at different stages in the race, and therefore lots of overtakes being made.
Yeah, as I said a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, very much so a fan of the format that the Porsche Club of America have put forward for this race. Having these racers of various skills, various different strategies as well in terms of picking the teammates and trying to go from there. It's like it's like playing a game of dodgeball in gym as a kid, being able to pick your teammates and all that stuff. I was never in that position. I was usually the child that got picked last because I was a bit on the porky end. But no, you kind of find yourself in a situation thinking, okay, how can I strategize best with my team? How can I tackle this race? I was going to mention this a little bit earlier on before we saw that drama break out in the GT4 category, talking about putting your best foot forward and maybe putting your best racer into the car at the end of this race to end off on a good note. Back in my karting days, I would always want to be the last car out there on the track, to have the final say, have that last word, say, you know what, everybody put their feet forward. I can now be the last one, so I can step out in front. I know what the yardstick is. For many of these teams, they may decide to go for a strategy like that. So you're going to see a lot of shuffling go on, including this with the number 55 car. That right there is a mighty comeback from Matthew Siddle, and a mighty move around the outside of Robert Neville into 6.
Yeah, and you mentioned there might have been method to the madness, and you're seeing it at the moment because Siddle is making up lots of places. You can see he's gained 12 seconds on J.R. Gregory since we last talked about him, and he's roared around Neville there. You just start to look up the field and wonder where he might be able to get to here in this race. Can he get to Glenn in the remaining laps? He'd probably say so. What about Peter Kummer maybe? That might be it, but Siddle there is going to gain a couple of places, and that will be added to the ones he's already gained, of course, through this first run so far. Maybe this has turned out to be the better way to do it, because after all, he's the pro of the lineup, and he's effectively given the pro the most clean air. If he started the race, he'd likely be stuck in traffic, certainly in the first 5 laps or so.
Yeah, that's a good point that you raised there, Ewan. In terms of putting your best let me try that one again. In terms of putting your best foot forward in one of these races a little bit later on in the event, as I get my tongue unwrapped around my teeth like it was about 16 times a few moments ago. I had to take a quick little shot of some WD-40 to get that all squared away. But no, when it comes to something like that, there is method to the madness of putting the best driver in a little bit later on. You can save up their energy as some of these teams are maybe starting to drop down a little bit. You can kind of go from there. Strike while the iron is hot. I think that's the best way that I can describe it. You want to be able to set in those good lap times when the field is set up in just about the right way where your top racer can really do well. I think the best way I can describe it is, if you were trying to do well in a bass fishing tournament, you wouldn't send your star fisherman out to try and catch a bass inside of a bathtub.
I don't really understand fishing, but
oh, neither do I, trust me.
I don't live in the bath. This is out for second, by the way, or about to come through. Will be the battle for second in a short time in the Cup class. Nicky Chan still in 4th place, looking to get onto the podium, and passing Paddy James Schomer is probably Nicky Chan's best chance at doing that. Schomer's still holding on to a podium as things stand as a challenge class driver in the 70 for 70 here. He's got 14 laps to go currently, and is going rather well as far as retaining that position goes. We're just going through the field at the moment. Hillman and Damasio are quite close together. They were. I think I'm looking at an outdated timing screen there. But anyway, there's Mike Sachs. He's closing on Schomer. I mean, it will be heartbreak to see it taken away from the challenge class driver, but he's got a long way to hold on here.
And despite the fact we've had so much racing up to this point, we're getting into the closing stages, frankly. So these racers having their eyes focused on that checkered flag coming up here in the not too far off future, and trying to think of how best they can set themselves up come time for the end of this race. Here's a team that I'm a little bit iffy on, if I'm being completely honest here. And you see the number 56 machine as he heads his way off into turn number 5, down into 6 right about now. There's been a rather up and down race for that Zoom Shum team, and one strategy call that I questioned almost immediately when I saw that team make that call to come down pit lane is the fact that as it stands right now, they still have a little bit of damage on the front end of that race car that they picked up a little bit earlier on in this race. It may not seem like too much. It's a small little wrinkle to that bumper and a small little upturn in that splitter, and you can see a little bit of rear end damage on that car as well, but it can affect them, and you can see that as right there, the 013 car right behind in this battle for 11th was able to reel them in down the straightaways. That damage may be hurting them.
Oh, that was close, dear me. Into the final corner. Big squeeze there for the Cup cars coming past the Cayman. Look down the inside and no way through that time round. Schommer, meantime, did lose second, by the way, in the GT4 class. Mike Sachs now up to second for the Backmarker Motorsports team. Nicky Chan now 1.7 seconds behind Schommer, looking to take that away in that battle for the podium, which is going to be one to watch in the final minutes of this race, the final laps of this race. Ben Buckley also is closing on Mark Foley for second place in the Cup class as well. We've got a couple of battles for podium places going on in a couple of classes as well. It's exactly the end to the race we could hope for, really. 12 laps to go, including the one that they've just started. And Mark Foley will start to look over his shoulder here in that car that's been running second pretty much all day.
Yeah, now feeling a little bit of pressure. I'll tell you what, though, this is good news, good stuff for that 012 car. Peaking at the right time, I talked about it in reference to putting your best foot forward at the end of this race. But even if you're just a driver at the end, you want to try and set in those good lap times at the end. Strike while the iron is hot and set in those good runs. Come time for the very end of it, and right now it's looking like Ben Bulkley behind the wheel of that number 012 car, gonna try and apply some pressure to that 57 of Mark Foley right in front. They're still having to worry about that GT4 traffic, very sketchy stuff as they headed their way off in through that final chicane. That, I believe, was the number 718 car, the Code Red Motorsports entry, as they headed their way off through the final series of turns. But this battle for second certainly gonna get a bit more intense as we get a little bit closer to the end of this race. They want to touch on the GT4 classes. We did have a swap-a-roo a few moments ago between Bailey James Schomer and Nicky Chan. Chan now moving their way up into P3.
Now that is a shame for Schomer, who's running on the podium for so long here in this second part of the race, but just getting away from the 4 team now. And Rich Dalmazio has been really closing in here as well. Maybe he's making a late charge for the podium now as he gets onto the back. Siddle makes a very easy pass on David Glenn. You can see lots of these battles coming up late on here as some of the faster drivers who have had their slower ones in earlier are now making the moves, and Dalmazio doing just that as well. We saw that he was being aggressive earlier on, and surely he's going to be aggressive with Schomer as well into turn 7. He's going to look to get the exit here and on the way through. Oh, he's on the grass. Look at that in the background there. Just on the grass from Schomer. And he looks out to the right-hand side. Now gets into the slipstream. Surely Dalmazio is going to get through quickly here. It's 10 laps to go. And Schomer is going to have to settle for a top 5. It's not going to be a podium after holding on for so long. Here comes Dalmazio. Latest on the brakes and through on the inside line ahead of Bailey James Schomer, who will have to settle for the top 5, but a great effort from the Challenge Class driver to be mixing it up with these guys right now.
I'll tell you what, something may have gone down with that number 4 machine as well, because I'm looking at some of the lap times that car has set as of recent in this race. They've been about as consistent as expired mayonnaise in terms of the lap times. I'm not sure if something is slightly misconstrued. There we go, second tries a charm. I'm not sure if something is slightly awry with that number 4 machine. I'm looking through at the lap times. We're talking about like a second, a half a second variance lap after lap. I think that car is really starting to catch up with Bailey James Schomer. May have some trouble handling that car at the present moment as we get a little bit further along in this race. Coming up to the checkered flag, I'll touch on this again, talking about the evolution in the track conditions. We're even cooler now for the track temp at 105 Fahrenheit and 41 Celsius. So that is getting a little bit more tame for these racers. Any hotter and the tires would start to feel a little bit too hot. The track would get a bit greasy. Now they're getting into the sweet spot for track temperature. Maybe a bit on the overly hot end, but still pretty all right. Maybe in that change of track conditions, that number 4 car really starting to struggle. Could be a change in setup with that machine that could be costing them.
Well, looks like it's still going to be a top 5 for the 4 car, which I think is an absolutely fantastic result for them. We're just going to have a look through the liveries and the runners and riders from this race. Be looking out, by the way, at home for your favourite livery. If you want to put a a little thing in for that. And we'll have to decide between ourselves as well who we're going to award the best livery to over the course of this race. So here we go, starting with the leader, Steve Commemorates, leading the way. Looks like it's going to be a comfortable win in the end for car 18. It's be a battle we'll circle back to between Foley and Bulkley for second and third position. That's the last 10-0-1-2. And Robert Neville's dropped all the way to 7th. Don't forget that car was running 3rd previously. Peter Cummer has moved up. It's one of those slightly funkier liveries you were referencing earlier on. And there's Matthew Siddle on the charge. It looks like Siddle's going to get 4th in the end.
Yeah, looking pretty all right in a car that looks like a brown Argyle sweater that I have in my collection. That is certainly meant in a compliment. There's the number 13 machine of David Glenn on track at the present moment for a pretty all right result, P6 at the present moment. Here's Robert Neville, another one of those last 10th cars. I like the gold accents on it, pretty nice. I also am a fan of the simplicity here on the Dale Green machine. Here we go. Here's Chad Henson. Right behind the wheel of that car. I kind of like the paint scheme on it. I'm a fan of that color scheme. The kind of the German colors on the German flag colors on that car. I'm kind of it's difficult. See, I say this as somebody who has trouble deciding what he wants to have for dinner or lunch or breakfast more often than not. Me picking a race car is a little bit tricky to do. I will say though, this Flying Blind racing machine of our old pal Mr. J.R. Gregory, that's a good looking race car. That's a nice shade of blue. I like the stars and the silver on it. That is a nice looking race car. If we were running in the night too, ooh, that car, that would be glittering. Yeah,
it would. That's the Stallions 550. Jeremy Hall just getting past another lap car there as we follow them. Savajit Barua for Matrix Green. A lot of Matrix cars here today. There's my favourite. I reckon that might be getting my vote. I'll just wait until I've seen all of them again. But car 6 is looking very good. This is R-Speed, 137. Although I do like this one as well. Bit damaged now. Devon Hopkins, we saw getting in the walls a little bit early on through 6 and 7. And there's another Stallions GT3 Cup car. I've already seen a similar one. And there's another similar one, Matrix Silver. Slightly different livery to the other Matrix cars. Stallions rock around the clock. This is properly different. And a little bit damaged, unfortunately, for Anker Bergström. And now we get to the Caymans. John Gibson leading the way. One of the better liveries, but they're already going to be getting some prizes at the end here because they look like they're going to win this race by some margin.
Yeah, they're holding on to a very comfortable gap in that GT4 category. Here's Mike Sachs. I gotta wonder what maneuver he put on to make his way up into second. We saw the move that he put on to jump his way up into third in class. Not sure what it took to go up another spot. That's Rich Dalmazio behind the wheel of that number 32 car. The very nice looking Martini scheme. See, I got into Formula One right as Williams started up their sponsorship deal with Martini and their stint in the sport between 2014 and 2018. So I like that paint scheme. It's actually, I have 2 cars outlined as my favorites in the GT4 category. We'll touch on them when we get to them a little bit farther up the road. That's an honorable mention. Jeff Rosenthal in that very good looking car. Kind of reminds me of the Ferrari, Ferrari livery that they ran at the Mugello F1 race back in 2020. The one-time F1 ran at that track. But we're getting close to the 2 cars that I'm a fan of. There's the other Schadenfodder number 21 car of Jeff Williams, kind of the inverse of that scheme. Still pretty nice, but it reminds me of a discount like retail store chain Ollie's that we have in the US, which is interesting association regardless. Yeah, the Breaking Bad scheme, not sure if legally speaking we can support that. Here's one of my favorites. It's the 718, the Donald Manning machine, the Code Red car. I just like that color. That's nice. I like the little swirl effect in the midst of all of that as well. And then here's the other. It's a D-Squared Motorsports machine, the red, white, and blue car, the number 42 of Dave Douglas. Now, you can call me a biased American, and that would be fair. I just love red, white, and blue cars. One of my first karts was a Top Kart back when they were running in red, white, and blue. And I also had a Sodi kart many, many years before, where they usually come in a color scheme very similar to that car that we just had on screen a couple of moments ago, kind of orangey yellow and black, but I changed it to be red, white, and blue when I was driving that kart. So I would say between the two, I'd be split between the 718 and the number 42 in the GT4 class, at least in my view.
You do forget that our flag is completely the same colours, but I can stay objective. not quite the same shade, I understand. But anyway, are there any others other than those two you'd like to throw in? Because you know, I mean, Code Red I can kind of agree on. I'm not sure I quite like the D squared car as much, to be honest with you. But are there any others you want to throw into the mix just in the final 5 laps here? We've probably got to decide before the end of the race because we'll have all the other prizes, of course, for the finishes to give out a little bit later on. But any others you want to throw into the mix? Ramiro as well. We'll hand them in backstage.
You know, I think in the GT3s, I know the both of you are rather in strong support of the car that we were talking about a couple of moments ago, the Wysack Warriors number 6 car. That's a very good looking paint scheme. If I had to give an honorable mention, though, it probably would be to this full speed sim racing team. That's just a good looking car. I like it's simple but elegant in an odd way, but maybe a little bit too simple for it to be my number 1 spot. I like a little bit of wackiness. I like a little bit of goofiness. If you've heard my commentary for long enough, you would very much so know that. But I think it's just a bit too grounded for it to get my number 1 spot. So I will join the both of you in that brigade in honor of that number 6 car in the GT3 Cup machine. I think I'm a fan of that machine. We're hearing
a late change to Ramiro. A late change, and he's gone for Flying Line Racing. Oh goodness me, that is.
Now it's got all complicated because I love that car too. That was my concession vote.
Now we're all going for different ones. I mean, I'm quite happy with the Flying Line Racing. I think he looks quite good as well. But there you go. Currently running, well, they 12th place in the field at the moment for J.R. Gregory. Now this is Steve Comat's, by the way. I think this is exactly a lap ago for the leader. Oh dear, and the gap has come right down, and this is why. Oh my goodness, the final 4 laps of this race could have some serious drama now. Steve Comat's just hit the wall through turn 5. The gap's down to 3 seconds. Oh, and the car's pretty badly damaged as well. This is not going to be a simple finish to this race. Mike Sachs has miscalculated by much things fuel-wise. He's into the pit lane for GT4s. It's all happening now.
Yeah, that would certainly explain why Mike Sachs was scything his way through the field. So good news for the number 4 car. Bailey James Schomer looking on track for a P4 at the end of this race. But Steve Comat's with a big mistake all through the most challenging bend on the entirety of the track. Turn number 5, usually a trouble spot here at Road Atlanta. And I'm shocked we haven't seen it already, as I think Peter Coomer had a moment as well. Yes, he has in the Gone Broke racing car. His car has had a breakdown as he's now trying to get that car spun back around the right direction. He is now outside of the top 5 as David Glenn got a move put on him in the number 13 machine. I think he may have had some assistance as he headed his way down to the turn. Matthew sit on that number 55 car. Was contact made? There was.
I mean, he was alongside, to be honest, but there was contact. And that's how Cyril's up to 4th, and Kuma loses his top 5 place as well. Well, that is big drama, as we've had at the front. Looks like Komax is getting away with this. It looked like the damage was quite bad initially, but actually it looks like he's got away with it, and he's nearly 4 seconds in front of Foley. He's got 2 laps to go when he gets to the line, and that is, well, going to be a big relief, because this is late drama here in this race, and Komac now is going to be whizzing these last 2 laps away. 68 about to be completed.
And there's only so much his teammate can do right behind Mark Foley, behind the wheel of that number 57 car. As much as they aren't right on top of each other with 4 seconds being the gap, we still have a consistent line of GT4 traffic for your race leader to try and negotiate with between now and the end of this race. And you also got to look a little bit farther in the back as well. That 012 machine of Ben Bulkley, he is right there to pounce as well. So Mark Foley can't lollygag around when it comes to this. If he does, he'll have to do it in a rather methodical way to ensure the victory for the team car right in front and bring home a 1-2. But right now he's still got that pressure from the car right behind. I will say Bulkley not getting the good rub of the green with that lap traffic encounter as they headed his way off through the final sector there. But right now for Steve Komatz, it's still not like complete hard in your mouth stuff with a 3.5 second gap with about 2 laps left to go here at Road Atlanta, but it's still far less comfortable than it was earlier on. And just in this spiel of mine, down to 2.7, Komat's dropping down.
Yeah, it must have been a bit of traffic that time round as Glenn and Kuma battle for the final spot inside the top 5 as well. Gone Broke Racing want to get back into that top 5 where they've been running for quite some time in this second stint of the race. But that late incident with Siddle might well just have prevented them from getting that top 5. Robert Neville right behind them as well. Be a 3-driver battle for 5th position as Steve Comats now comes towards the final part of the lap for a penultimate time. 2.7 seconds is current advantage. The race leader has one more time around here from Road Atlanta to bring it home for victory in the 70 for 70 here tonight. The gap 2.5 seconds. He's got a damaged car. He's limping home compared to his teammate out just behind him, Mark Foley. But he sees the white flag now, and he's got one more lap to go at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, and a 2.5-second gap that is still going down. 2.3. If he gets caught up in traffic too badly, it'll go down even more. 2.2, 2.1, 2 flat. It's dropping down big time. I wonder if Comats is potentially also having to worry about some gas as well. That gap has gone back up. It's seesawing between these racers, going up and down, up and down, up and down. But he's got that lap car right in front. That's a 42 D squared motorsports entry right in front. That's going to hold up Comats. I'm not sure if it'll be big enough of a swing for Mark Foley to reel him in, but that's still a heart in the mouth end to this race for Steve Comats as he heads his way off through the bottom end of the track for the final time in this race.
1.5 seconds the advantage. It is going to be a nail-biter to finish here, but it looks like Comats has got enough. Down the straight, he seems okay in terms of straight line speed, actually. Well, now he's just seeing that brought back a little bit now as far as top speed goes, but there's no traffic in front to hurt him. He's just got to nail this braking zone and this final chicane as well. And celebrating the 70th year of the Porsche Club of America, here with 70 laps from Road Atlanta, Steve Comats for the Simshop Eagles Canyon Raceway team will come across the line, and he will take victory here ahead of Mark Foley in a nail-biting finish in the end after that late incident for them. In GT4, John Gibson for GeForce Racing is going to take this one by 51 seconds. Much of the work done by Michael Polasek in the first stint of this race. In the end, John Gibson just had to bring it home, and that he absolutely did very easily indeed. The battle for 5th place goes on as well. It looks like Neville and Kuma have come together, because David Glenn has gotten away with 5th place very comfortably, and they have both been in the gravel. Peter Kuma comes out the other side, gets Robert Neville, and they stay in the positions they entered that final chicane.
Oh, and you can see right there the 5 of Peter Kummer having a run off into the dirt as he rounded his way out of that final corner, so avoid making contact with that GT4 machine. Some very intense finishes all throughout this field. Well done, though, to our 2 winners. 2 very different ends to this race. For John Gibson, he pretty much just had to bring it home. A wonderful job done by that team all throughout this race. And meanwhile, at the very north end of the field in that GT3 Cup category, an absolutely enthralling and by some metrics terrifying finish for that number 18 machine. Thankfully, though, they did have their teammate right behind, so that may have helped in terms of the nerves, but outside of that, a very sketchy finish for them up at the front.
And it ends just 1.6 seconds apart for Comats and Foley. Ben Buckley will join them on the podium, with Matthew Siddle and David Glenn ending up winning that battle for 5th place. Kuma and Neville will pick themselves out the gravel later on, as we saw. A little bit further down, 1 minute off the lead for Dale Green, William Wolf and Kellen Heimbacher, who rounded out the top 10. 1 lap down for Chad Henson in the end, with Jeremy Hall 12th place, getting past Joe Gregory quite late on. See Avijit Barua and Guy Rayner rounding out the top 15. Christian Braun, Devin Hopkins, Sheldon Zakura and Mike Patterson rounding out those 1 lap down. Jacob Shum rounded out the top 20 with Ankerberg Son rounding out the field in the GT3 Cup class. John Gibson wins in GT4, 53 seconds in front of Rick Delmazio, who raced through the field late on there. Nicky Chan got on the podium as well. Benny James Sommer couldn't quite hold on to that podium, unfortunately for him, with Michael Kinney rounding out the top 5. Jeff Rosenthal was lapped again by the overall leader, finishing 6th ahead of Mike Sachs, Jeff Williams, Derek Dirksen and Gary Rice, who rounded out the top 10. Andrew Hillman and Dolan Manning also got to the end just a lap down. Dave Douglas and Mark Lacombe were slightly delayed, not as much as Les Carmichael in the Maverick GT4 car, although that was the only car of the field to do the race with 2 challenge class drivers of Les Carmichael and Jonathan Sesportas. So a hats off to them and a congratulations to them, because they will win a hat, a 70th anniversary cap from the PCA for that achievement. Let's have a quick chat then, shall we, to a few of the drivers who have finished this race up towards the front end of the field. We'll start with the GT4 winners, shall we? Keep things simple with Michael Polsek and John Gibson. Bring them both in together, why not? Welcome both, good to have you with us. Congratulations on winning here tonight in the 70 for 70 GT4 class. First of all, start with you, Michael. I mean, the first part of the race, you completely blew the rest of the field away. Just, were you expecting this kind of speed from the GT4? And how have you been finding the new GT4 since the week 13 update?
I spent a decent amount of time getting used to the new GT4s. They drive a little bit differently compared to the old ones. They're a lot slidier, and you have to really control the attitude of the car through the corner a lot more. They're much more involved cars, and they're much more difficult, and also the tire wear is much higher. That's one of the key things that I found when I was testing is these tires, if you don't take care of them, will just disintegrate. So I was able to build a really good setup and get used to the car and have the confidence just to push every lap. And all I had to do was just run my race, and things just fell into place.
And John, what was it like being put into a car in that situation where you seem to do such a good job to give you a big lead, and then the sort of pressure of having to keep that as well for the second half of the race?
Yeah, that was an interesting situation to put me in. You know, Michael did a fantastic job, and like you said, gapped the field. And my job was to try and maintain that gap and not let anybody get to us. So tried to do my best at that, and wanted to thank Princess Cruises and also the PCA Sim Racing Committee. Put on a great race.
Well, thanks very much for being a part of it. Congratulations on winning the GT4 class, and I'm sure we'll see you in your classes again for the Series 14 very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Michael Polsek, John Gibson, the race winners tonight in GT4 in the 70 for 70. Let's go to the overall winners now. At least one of them, Steve Commemorates, can join us, the overall winner here tonight in the GT3 Cup class as well. Steve, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats on bringing that one home. How were the nerves at the end there after you'd made that small mistake with a couple of laps to go?
I didn't do it. That was a huge mistake, buddy. Yeah, they were pretty tight, but you know, I had a great teammate to wind me down and get us home.
Well, it was a 1-2 finish in the end. That must be a nice feeling as well. I mean, this is, you know, a special event in itself. It's not attached to any sort of championship, but it does have the Porsche Cup car from the regular championship. And the one big difference, of course, having the GT4s out there as well. How was the multi-class traffic to deal with at Road Atlanta tonight? Sorry.
Oh, not too bad. I mean, you know, they were pretty darn respectful, and not too. You know, I mean, some of them just got out of the way. It was really well managed and fun to drive.
Thanks very much again for being a part of it, Steve. Congrats on the win tonight in 70 for 70, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Hey, it was a factory run, so it was fun. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Steve Commemorates, winner tonight in the 70 for 70. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like White Gooden is able to join us. So we'll just clean up GT3 Cup now, I think, with the 012 car. Ben Buckley and Chris Braun, the drivers there. We might be able to chat to Last Tenth's owner, Nicky Chan, as well, just briefly before the end. But first of all, the drivers for Last Tenth, Chris and Ben. Welcome into you both, and good to have you with us. First of all, to Ben for the end of the race. You brought it home in third position in the end, chasing down those front two, and got pretty close towards the end as well. How was that second stint of the race for you?
That was terrific. Mark did a great job. He was very steady. We were both getting through traffic, and I think we ended up pretty healthy at the end.
And yeah, the first part of the race, Chris, was sort of a lot closer battle, if you like. The front five seemed to break away immediately, and you were a big part of that for the opening part of the race too. Obviously, traffic splits things apart and whatever, but you know, how was the first part of the race? Must have been pretty intense to be a part of at the front there.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, like you said, the front four or the front five of us were carrying good pace, and I was able to stay in the draft for a good portion of my stint, and then lost the draft. And then at that point, Kerry pulls away, and then I was just kind of in a pocket. At that point, I was just, hey, I'll try to stay ahead of the guy behind me, and take it easy a little bit so that Ben could have a fairly fresh set of tires when he gets in the car. And it worked out pretty well for us. I feel bad for Kerry. I don't know what happened there, but certainly he had the pace on us. But yeah, we'll take it.
Well, absolutely. Congrats tonight on that podium in 70 for 70, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's Ben Buckley and Chris Braun chatting to us tonight. Third place for them overall in GT3 Cup. Now let's go back to second place, because we have got the second place drivers of Mark Foley joining us with teammate Blake Townend as well. So I'll just bring them in now to conclude things off in GT3 Cup as well. Welcome in, Blake and Mark. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on finishing on the podium. Second place. Mark, you were able to bring it home in a sort of formation finish in the end. Maybe not under the circumstances you wanted to bring it home in a formation finish like that, but it must be a nice moment for you to finish the race out front like that.
Absolutely. Steve and I have been teammates before, and it was great to see Steve and Wyatt win this. We, of course, would like to have been on the top box, but we ran a good race. We felt it was clean. We might have just took a little too much fuel in the pits, but it was all a lot of fun.
And Blake, how much communication and coordination was there between the two teams at the beginning there? You were running very close to begin with, and as Mark says there was a little bit of a disparity in pit stops as well. Was there much coordination during the race?
Actually, no, there wasn't. It's just Wyatt and myself, we've known each other for a very long time, and we trust each other. So yeah, I was just trying to save as much fuel as I could in the dirty air, and obviously Wyatt had his moments with traffic, so it got really intense there. I didn't really want to fight Wyatt too hard, so I know there was a certain lap where I had the lead for maybe a lap or so, but no, the sim shop Porsche was just on fire. The set was fantastic, so thank you to Wyatt for that, and congratulations for the 1-2 finish. It was really good. Mark did an excellent job at the end. I know there was a lot of pressure with Ben catching, but he was pretty calm and collected, and he got it home.
Well, congratulations to you both again on that bringing it home in second tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That is Mark Foley and Blake Townend to join us at the end here tonight. Second place for them overall in GT3 Cup. Now let's go back to the Cayman class now, and the Rich Dalmazio driven car towards the end. Rich Dalmazio and Robert Walton driven car, and they can both join us now as well. Welcome in to you both, and congratulations on finishing second in the GT4 class here tonight in 70 for 70. Rich, first of all, chat to you, because it was a great run through the field late on. How was it making those overtakes in that final part of the race?
It was a lot of fun, I gotta say. Robert did a fantastic job keeping the nose clean, and as I always say, in a semi-endurance or endurance, as long as you have a clean car, that's more than half the battle. And it was a lot of fun, I gotta say. I really enjoy racing with these guys, and I know that I don't think we had any gals in this particular race, but the community is so great. I had such a good time. So yeah, thank you to everyone here. Appreciate it.
And Robert, there was very much two ways of going about this for pro and club class combinations, like what you two are in this race. There was either put your pro in first and let them do the start, or let them do the finish as the way you did it. What was or how did you come to that conclusion that this was the right way to go about it tonight?
It was an easy call. I asked my teammate what he wanted to do, and he wanted to finish, and that was just fine by me.
Very simple indeed. How was the start? How did you find it?
Kind of chaotic, but we made it through with no damage for the first stint, and Rich took it from there.
Well, congratulations to you both on the second place tonight in GT4, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That's Robert Walton and Rich Dalmazio at the end in second place in GT4 tonight. One last chat, because everybody's chatting but below there, so we'll stop interrupting their conversations in a moment. Chat to Nikki Chan and Mark Duran, who can now join us as well. Third place here tonight in the GT4 class in the end. Welcome to you both. Nikki, we'll start with you, because you finished the race there on circuit. I mean, it was pretty tight actually in GT4 to finish. There was plenty of teams around late on. You managed to sneak one of those podium places. What were those final 10 or so laps there as you were fighting for third?
I think when I came out of the pits, we were feeling pretty good because we knew Sachs doesn't have enough fuel to finish the race. So we were in P5, so we're at least P4. And Sachs was closing in on P2 and 3, so it's just a matter of time that we would get on podium. So, we felt pretty safe, and we just kind of, our mentality was just, execute the race and it'll come to us. And that's kind of how it ended.
It certainly did, and Mark, another one of those teams that decided to put the pro in second place and the other driver, whatever division they were from, in the start of the race. How did you come to that decision, and how did you feel having to start the race here tonight?
Well, fortunately, I think I was doing a decent job with pace, and I had the time to practice and do the quali practice. So we felt like we could, either one of us have started and we'd have been fine. And I just we flipped the coin and I got the nod.
Congratulations on a clean start and a podium for the both of you, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race as well.
Thanks. Just going to steal a quick moment. I want to thank my teammate Mark. Man, he's it's great to have him. Definitely, based on the first race of season 14, the quickest non-pro driver out there. I want to congratulate PCA for 70 years and Princess for sponsoring this, as well as our sister cars in Last 10th, and definitely all the students that have entrusted in me to help them get faster. So I don't know if Mark, you want to say anything. So.
Yeah, hallelujah, amen. And you guys make this very fun for us too. So thanks for all the good work.
100%.
Thanks very much to you both. I'm sure we'll see you out in the weeks for Series 14.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Mark Doran and Nikki Chan chatting to us at the end here tonight from Road Atlanta, which is just about going to do it for us here tonight. So here are the prizes for those in the classes here tonight. First place, a grill badge and a 70th anniversary cap. For second place, we'll receive a polo shirt and a cap as well. And for third place, t-shirt and a cap for them, 70th anniversary cap. For those in third place. Just trying to get word through before we finish up here tonight on the overall cleanest team. They will get a polo shirt, and if it's a tie, by the way, they will the iRacing tiebreaker rules will apply for the clean driver award. And for the best car livery, it's a 70th anniversary polo shirt for both team members. And we can announce to you that we've had a bit of a negotiation behind the scenes. We've worked things out. We've gone for, in the end, our selection from RaceSpot. We've compromised between the three of us. All of us quite like the car, and that's why we've chosen it. The car that ended up finishing in 13th place tonight, the Flying Line Racing car of J.R. Gregory and Enrico Gregorato. I think Ramiro put it as his number one. Me and Ron were sort of like, well, we'll go along with that. So that's what we're going for here. Flying Line Racing will take the livery prize. There it is. The best livery voted for by RaceSpot. Don't come at us for the complaining. It's it's a very good looking car. I personally think it looks fantastic. There you go. A great event run. 70 laps here from Road Atlanta here tonight, and a great finish, actually, nail biting finish towards the end. Although the team members themselves slightly less sort of nervous about it. Really, they seem to think it was all in hand there towards the end.
Yeah, it was a wild finish here at Road Atlanta, but overall an absolutely amazing event. I'm happy to have been a part of it here for 70 for 70 of the Porsche Club of America. We still have some absolutely amazing racing actions to look forward to in the PCA world, running at Watkins Glen these upcoming 2 weeks for all of the series. And of course, you'll be able to tune into all of the action here on RaceSpot. But what a race that we had here. It was super, super fun. We got to kick back our feet and relax, and also really tense up and look at some brilliant racing action all throughout tonight. That was some fun. Really looking forward to seeing what the rest of this year has for the Porsche Club of America.
Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun. One more thing before we go, of course, it's the Rich D PC team, because they have got the winner of the lowest incident points award. Congratulations to Rich Dalmasio and Robert Walton for not only having the lowest incident points, but for racing into second in GT4 while doing so. Shows that having a clean race is just as important to having a fast race as well. As Ron says, we'll be back on every Wednesday and Thursday until December for Series 14 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. So make sure you join myself, Ron, and Joe Peak for combinations of those broadcasts, as well as Romero Augustin Cisneros, who's been behind the cameras for us tonight as well. A big thanks to everyone for tuning in and everyone behind the scenes for making it all happen here tonight. This has been the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series 70 for 70 here from Road Atlanta. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Ron Rounds with Romero Augustin Cisneros. This has been RaceBot TV, and we'll see you in the week at Watkins Glen. Goodbye for now.